気ですか My brother 私あなたの味方ですカルビーカッパエリセン
遊び上手なやつにしゃぶられていると聞いた噂だけだね純つゆ味覚糖純つゆ
ソフトいろいろもよろしく。
ロッテチョコレート20年の歴史が今ザ・キング・オブ・キングス初めてチョコレートに生クリームを生かしたスペシャルエマルジョンプロセスだからちょっとお高いですがとにかく美味しいのですロッテザ・キング・オブ・キングス
今年のお茶はどうかの
おかげさまで
深い味わいじゃ
風味豊かな抹茶のチョコレート
このお茶はことによろしい
ロッテことの四季
つぶつぶのパフがぎっしり詰まっておりますサクッと軽い美味しさであります
ロッテクランキーチョコ
オレンジジャムを抱き込んだスポンジケーキをチョコで包んだソフトチョコボールこの美味しさこのボリューム
大助かりの大得よ
ロッテ大得よ
ソフトチョコボール
ミルクチョコレートもよろしく
コーン 100% 豊かな風味美味しい歯触りボリュームたっぷり100円
この葉はスナックの三冠王です
ロッテのこの葉
かじってみよう What's new? What's new? かじってみなけりゃわからないかじってみよう
グリコアーモンドボール
ワーオホワイトチョコとチョコレートの美味しい重ね着
みんなでかじろうイエイIt's スナッキーアーモンドボールはグリコだ
プチパイとってもプチな昼下がりどこかで誰かが見つめてる
チョコレートクリームとラズベリージャムのおしゃれな一口パイ
年頃のお兄さんいるいっぱいいる一人でいいのよグリコプチパイ箱を開けたら金のペンダント見つけた
久しぶりの我が家懐かしい顔が揃って一味違うファミリーデートグリコチョコレートコロンの香ばしい美味しさがここでも大人気フ
ァミリーデートしましょうね
グリココロンとプリッツ米っ子
やっぱりあなたも夏休み
そうよ
一口いかが涼しさいっぱいグリコフロート
おいしい
グリコフロートカメハメハ大王から一言
カメカメほうグビグビほう
では
果汁たっぷり
グリコカリッポ
あげ君がいるからあげ僕がいるのさポケットにすべて詰め込んであげ心の旅はあげ
僕には君が君には僕が分け合おうグリコアーモンドチョコレートセシルチョコレート僕には君が君には僕が分け合おうグリコアーモンドチョコレートセシルチョコレート
Governor Cuomo, right? He led to tens of thousands of people dying by forcing nursing homes to accept COVID patients, and then he covered it up. Yet he gets in no trouble for that. Instead, he gets in trouble for pinching some butts. It's the same with his brother now. Now, all of the propaganda that his brother has pushed. Remember when he came out of the basement? He had COVID and he came out of the basement. It's my first time coming out of the basement. Then we found out that actually, even when he was diagnosed with COVID, as he lectured to all of us, he was out riding his bike in his community, yelling at some guy without a mask on. And that guy was like, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that said you had COVID that you're hiding in a basement? But he doesn't suffer any consequences for that. Instead, it's for this benign thing of helping his brother or something like this. And the reason they're doing this is because it allows CNN to say, see, we're a reasonable and credible news organization. We get rid of people when they behave inappropriately. But what's the end result of this going to be? They'll just give, what, Don Lemon 2 hours? That's what's going to happen? They'll bring on another Cuomo brother or something like that? It's not like whoever fills that spot's going to be a real journalist. And the fact is that there is a systemic problem with our mainstream legacy media. They are not media, they are propagandists, and getting rid of one or two might feel cathartic, but they just replace them with the next stooge up, and the beat goes on. It's the same thing. Where's Chris Cuomo going to end up? I don't know. Probably Attorney General or head of the CIA or something like that, because that's how horrible our institutions are right now.
What up, Cyberspace Cadets, Cyberfan, Fanbots everywhere in Famerica. That's right. And okay, and don't forget those auditions over there. It's IRATE Prostate. It's Thursday. What the hell? That's right. It's another episode of Ice Cream. And coming up in the new year, I'm probably going to be doing the second helping show in this slot. So just for everybody, nuts and bolts shit. All right, so you just saw the clip of Rob in action. This dude is impressive to me. If anybody knows me, you know that I'm like, got this, I can't not be political about shit, man. I just can't let it go. But I'm really horrible at debating. I'll be honest with that. And it's really fun to see somebody that's an astute person, that debating. Because and especially one that has a similar political leaning as me. Usually, it's the other side that's kicking ass. All right. So what we're going to do? I'm going to, without any further delay, we're going to introduce the guest for tonight's show. It's none other than the one and only Rob Noerr. I just showed him a clip of you talking about Chris Cuomo and saying they'll probably make him attorney general or head of the CIA, and that was funny as shit, man. Indeed. So yeah, I wanted everybody to get a taste of exactly how you are when you're doing your real thing, right? Because we're not going to get pugilistic here, as it were, right? But I love watching you do your thing, man. And it's like I'm kind of like fanboying in kind of I'm old as fuck, and I know that's cringy, but hey, it is what it is, right? You know what I'm saying?
What I do is particularly the most important thing in the world, so I respect those people that make the world go round.
Yeah, and I just boomed all this shit, man. I had your audio completely off, so but Rob and I are just getting to know each other.
That's okay. I didn't say anything worthwhile anyway.
No, yeah, you did, man. Fuck, I'm really sorry about that. I'm too distracted. There's too much shit going on, and it's just
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I got the attention span of a flea, as it were. All right, so what I do here is basically it's kind of like a chatty kind of thing. It's more to get to know you as a person. You know, as aside from you, the content creator, and what you present on screen, when you're doing your thing. I think I can't express enough how impressive you are. I mean, it's like it's getting to a point to where you and like Destiny are almost like a team now. That's impressive as hell, man, because I mean, he was 4 or 5 years ago, nobody would go up against him because he was like a fucking like piranha, Yeah,
he's a smart guy with bad takes. Is how I would put it. But we share a lot of similarities in the way that we argue. I don't think that I'm an expert in anything. I just have an ability to make logical progressions and to listen and interpret what someone's saying and then come up with questions or reasons that maybe those conclusions don't logically make sense. And Destiny's very good at that as well. But I don't know if you saw, I debated him the other day. Everyone was like, oh, you and Destiny are best friends because we were on a panel making fun of these morons that wanted Rittenhouse to spend the rest of his life in jail. But then we were debating about Biden a week later. So, he's one of the people I like listening to and engaging with because he's actually intelligent. I'm sure if you've watched anything I do, you see what the average lefty Twitch streamers like. Yeah, and there's not much to celebrate there. So.
I will say you need to let him know that the progressive brat's never going to touch his pee-pee.
Isn't that fun? Hey, listen.
Dude, he white-knighted out on her ass, man.
I'll get real on your show. I don't care. The truth is that happens a lot in these streams. Look, this online debate scene that I find myself in, you say you're a boomer. Well, by comparison to everyone I interact with, I'm certainly a boomer. I'm 37. And it's like being in high school. It's like some girl walks in and all the guys are like, oh my God. It's such a joke. I've been with my wife for 11 years now. We've been married 7. I'm over this shit. I don't care. I don't have to sit here and, try to white knight for chicks because I think that they might ask for my number. Fuck that. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in your shows.
Dude, you can say it whatever you want, man.
Okay. You watch that. That's pathetic. Watching him, come on. And then he tried to be like, it was because she was new. Look, my philosophy is this. If you I don't know if you ever did any contact sports or anything like that. Did you play football or baseball or anything like that?
Yeah, I played football, wrestled, all that shit.
As a competitor, the most honorable thing to do is to treat everyone who steps in the arena with you the same. You don't put your kid gloves on because you're like, oh, I'm so much better than this batter, so I'm not going to throw my best stuff as a pitcher. No, screw that. That's not what competition's about. And when someone's debating me, if you come on to debate me and you're on one of these panels, I'm going to give you the respect of treating you like anyone else. I don't care if you're 17 and it's your first time on a panel or if you're Destiny and you've been doing it forever. It doesn't matter to me. And if you come on and you're going to start being an a-hole, I'm going to be an a-hole right back. And I'm sorry if the moderator goes, no, take it easy on her, guys. It's her first time. Well, then she shouldn't have came in like a tough guy saying, I'm not going to listen to you because you're a man. As soon as she said that, I was like, great. This is going to be a fun debate because I'm going to make fun of her the whole time for this shit.
Dude, and you did a great job on that shit, too. It was just impressive. And it's like, we could go into it, but the deal is that, these people hop on the scene, they think they're going to get instant whatever, right? From whatever they wanted to get out of doing this, right? And the deal is, man, is if you're on fucking YouTube and for money, you're doing the wrong thing.
Well, if you're on the right and you're trying to do it, it's a mistake because they'll censor you at any given time. And if you're on the left, listen, I have a sister that's 20 years younger than.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. My sister's 20 years younger than me, right? So I have 2 brothers and a sister that's 20 years younger, and she went to the same elementary school and high school I did, little rural town in Pennsylvania here. And I remember Mom telling me one day, she's like, yeah, your sister's in 2nd grade. And they had the classic, what do all of you want to be when you grow up, and write a report about it. And my sister said that 3/4 of the people in her class said YouTube stars. And it's like, woof, we're in for a rough time as a country if that's the direction things are heading. It's not, I do this as a hobby. That's what sets me apart from a lot of these streamers, particularly on the left. This is their full-time job. For me, it's a hobby. Don't get me wrong, I'll take donations. I do. Yeah. But if I never made a dime, I'm still going to stream because I have fun doing it. That's why I do it. I work 70 hours a week. And so, yeah, when you watch these people that think, you know, I'm small time comparatively. I'm starting to get a little big. You know, last night I had 150 people watching me on Twitch. That's cool. But compared to some of these lefty streamers, that's small potatoes. And yet now that my name's out there, I got invitations. I mean, I got offers to do debates for the next 3 months if I want. Like pretty much every day, people, will you debate me on the economy? And when I'm debating, 95% of the time, I'm debating the issue that they want. So someone will contact me and say, I'm really interested in debating you on welfare. Okay, let's do it, you know? And I might not be an expert in everything, and I'm not going to say that I'll win every debate, but I don't mind. What's the worst that could happen? Someone knows more than me? Okay, I don't care. But what's funny is, even me being a small timer, they think that they're going to get some amount of clout, like, oh, I'm a lefty that's got 5 people that watch me, so if I debate Rob, then all of a sudden I'm big time. It's like, if that's your reason for wanting to talk to me, you're making a huge mistake. If you want to talk to me because you think it'd be fun or interesting, that's great. But, you know, some of these people, it's just, I don't know. And I think that's where that progressive brat chick was coming from. She's a TikToker, and I think she thought, I'll come on and I'll be on a panel with Destiny, and then I'll get a bunch of viewers. Well, I don't think it went the way she wanted.
Yeah, no shit. Well, you know, I don't know. You see people making. I think that was a tactical mistake. You know, don't underestimate your opponent ever. Right.
Right.
You know, it's just that's something you learn. I don't know. I play a little bit. I've played chess before.
Yeah.
Excel tips $10. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, awesome. Man. When IRATE grows up, he'll be a YouTube star for sure.
There you go. Yeah, you're right though about not underestimating your opponent. You're absolutely right. Right, like you learn this in chess. If you play chess, I'm a very bad chess player.
I'm horrible.
You're trained. It's the same way we practice. So I debated in college, right? And I was pretty good. I was a pretty good debater in college. And my coach was adamant, just like a chess coach would be. You prepare for your opponents to do the best possible thing. Right? So when you're playing chess, you don't make moves saying, I hope my opponent screws up, because you'll lose, because if they don't screw up, then you didn't make the best possible move. Same way in debate. You go in assuming that your opponents are going to be well-informed, make the best possible arguments. And if you don't, and you go in and think, this is going to be a pushover, you might look really, really bad. And so, you know, and I don't think there's a problem. I've debated people that look bad, but they're not cocky. It's that unique combination that progressive brat had, where she's super cocky and she's one of the dumbest people you ever meet. Dude. That unique combination is what just sets you up for failure, because it's like, if you weren't cocky and you went in with humility and it was like, well, I don't really know much about this, no one's going to shit on you. But when you go in guns a-blazing and start accusing people of misogyny like 3 seconds into the debate, well, you better know your stuff, right, because man, the people on the other side do.
Straight into ad hom. I was going to say, just ad homing them attack, right? That means he got nothing, in my opinion. Roots tips $1 and says, $1 for the tip jar, digging this dude. As always, thanks, IRATE. Best interviews on the net. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's Roots Calhoun. He's a rapper dude.
Cool.
And much more than that, trust me. The dude is funny as hell. All right, so you were talking, all right, so we were talking about the debate style. Did you ever catch the Christy Winter Sargon debate?
No, I've seen a lot of Sargon debates.
Where she eviscerated him, man. It was like one of the earliest debates of this, you know, of this like skeptic community bunch, right? And and you know, and he came in cocky as hell, and it was Russian Deadpool. I don't know if you remember him, but he was the mod on that thing, right? And it let you really kind of, what it did for me was that, like, it said, okay, these fucking people are serious. You know, you can't come in half-assed with that kind of stuff. And I'm just horrible at arguing, you know. So what I like to do is I just hang out and kind of chill, catch a buzz, and, you know, kind of shoot the shit with people, man. You know, so my hat's off to you on that shit, man. It's crazy.
Well, it's sometimes I'll get in over my head. So the one disadvantage I have is this. Like, if I'm debating someone and they've set it up weeks in advance, they've probably heavily prepared. And I hate to use this as an excuse, but the truth is, what you see is what you get from me. The amount of time I have to prepare for anything I do in my show is almost zero, because I have a 10-month-old. It's my first child. I'm an awesome wife. I spend a lot of time with my family, and I work on average about 70 hours a week. I do block shifts. I work with people with developmental disabilities. So usually I go into work Sunday night and I'm there 24/7 until Wednesday afternoon. And so if you look at on my schedule, when I clock out at work, I get on and I start streaming. Then I go to bed, wake up, I'm at work again. Then on Wednesday, I get home. From 2 o'clock, I get home. I spend some time with my family. We have dinner. I usually come up here around 7:30, start streaming. So I have no time to prepare. And then Friday, Saturday, it's the other 2 days I stream. It's the same thing. I spend time with my family all day and then come up. So when I'm debating someone, I always take it serious, because I know even if it's someone I've debated before and did really well against, they've probably prepared hours to debate me. And so they've looked up. Now, a lot of times they don't, but sometimes they do. And sometimes you get in debates. Last night I debated someone. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think that if you talk to them off the air, they would call themselves a white nationalist. And this is a person who's wrote books on genetics. So how am I going to get into a debate about genetics with someone who literally has a PhD and has written books on the subject? So you just have to be humble. You have to understand, I'm not going to win every argument, but just because this person might know more than me on this subject, does that mean his conclusions are correct? I don't think so. And so that's where I'm able to argue. If you go in just saying, oh, I'm going to blow someone out of the water, they're going to end up knowing way more than you eventually on an issue, and you're going to look stupid.
Right. Did he have a French accent, by the way?
He did.
Wow, okay.
It's the same guy.
Yeah, no shit. All right, so...
He was, by the way, it was a pleasure to debate. It was very a good debate partner. Yeah, I didn't like a lot of his views, but it is what it is. That's what debate's about.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. You know, and that's a good thing to be able to, you know, I think when it comes to, like, you know, the internet, it makes it easy for us to, like, you know, be a little more, not violent, but a little more aggressive with each other, right? Because, you know, we've got this space between us, you know, that I think would be different, you know, if we're all in the same room, you know. And
yep, I totally agree.
Right, and carrying that decorum, if you can do that shit. You can carry that decorum literally on the net and actually have a decent discussion, you know, with somebody and still disagree with them, man, and be able to leave. That's the way it used to be, you know. And the left has gotten so fucking crazy, you know. It's like you know, it's like all or nothing with these people, man. And it's like, what the fuck, you know?
Well, and you're not only are you right. If you're in person, it's so much more easy to be civil. Think about it like this. If you ever text your wife or your girlfriend or even a friend something and you're being sarcastic, the problem is over writing, sarcasm sometimes doesn't come out. So you're like, sure, I'll do that. And your wife's like, fuck you. And you're like, no, I literally meant sure, I'll do that. But it gets lost. The tone gets lost through just written word. Well, it's the same when you're in face-to-face. You're more likely to understand. It's almost, I think it's something biological in us. You know, you might get punched in the face if you say something in front of someone that they don't like. So there's this reason for us to all be polite to each other, because we don't want conflict like that if we could avoid it. But when you're online, what's your danger? Nothing. Exactly. You can say whatever you want. You can be a tough guy. You can be, especially if you're anonymous, you can say whatever you want. And what I find is, not only is that more true online, but it's definitely more true on these big panels. So if you're on a 4-on-4 panel, it almost always ends up a shit show. And some people that I fight with on a 4-on-4 panel, if I have a one-on-one discussion, absolutely fine. But where I separate from a lot of conservatives that debate online is a lot of them, I don't know why, I have my suspicions, but they're afraid to give it back to people. They're afraid that someone will call them a racist or they'll say this or that. I don't give a shit. If you're going to come at me, here's the thing. I think I'm a pretty good debater. I think I'm even better at insulting people. So if you want to start insulting me, fine, we can play that game too. I have no problem with it, you know? And that sets me apart because a lot of these conservatives are like, oh, they're yelling at me. I'll just sit here patiently. No, screw that. I don't care. If you want to have a civil discussion, I'm all for it. But if you start down that path, by all means, let's do it. You know?
And I think that's a huge problem with the right, man, is they don't want to buck up against this bullshit, man. You know, and it's like now it's getting to a point where like they're trying to take Santa Claus away or change what it is. And I think people are starting to maybe buck up a little bit on that shit. You know, they caught the people with the CRT in the public school system. You know, that woke some people up, man. But, you know, it's like, you know, when you're in a fight that's not fair, you know, it's like I think the opposition sets the rules that way. That's what they want to do, right? And, you know, I think that, you know, turnabout's fair play. So you give what you get. Right. That's
right. And like, look, the entire idea of cancel culture, I'll admit, I was one back in 2016. I was saying, oh, don't play that game. I still don't, by the way. You will never see me. There are different ways to do cancel culture. I might say, I'm not going to watch the NFL or I'm not going to watch Disney or whatever based on things they make. But I'm not going to call like and be like, I demand that you fire Don Lemon, CNN. Like, I'm not going to do that. It's like, whatever, you know, I don't care. I just won't watch the shit, you know, but, you know, I used to say like, don't do it. Now I'm like, I won't do it, but I don't care. Because the reality is the people that do this stuff will never learn until they face the consequences of what they're acting on other people. Until it bites them in the ass, they've shown they don't care. They think that they're a different status of people. They think they're more moral than you, and therefore they're allowed to do whatever they want to you. And once it starts coming back to them, they'll be like, oh, this sucks. It's like children. You have to show them, like, you know, when your child keeps taking the toys from all the other little kids, they think it's fun. But once they get the toy taken, it's like, oh, not so fun, is it? And that's the way these people are. And it's sad that that's the way it is. So, you know, and I could play and both sides do it. That's true, both sides do it, but it's overwhelmingly the left. Let's not kid ourselves. It is, and it's tiresome. I'm tired of them acting like, you know, children that think that they're morally superior to all of us, and so that's why they don't like when you push back. Look, at the end of this is what I tell people. We're all going to die at the end of the day, regardless if you're religious or what. The things that are going to matter is, can you live with yourself? Can you live with your family and your loved ones? And, you know, and your religious beliefs, if you have them. Other than that, nothing else matters. And so you could be, if you want to run around being a prick and being disingenuous to people and grifting and doxing people and shit, fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to live with yourself. And so with this stuff, I don't give a shit. If someone calls me a racist, I know in my heart I'm not a racist. I know that I'm a moral person. And so when these people make these accusations to me, I just say it means literally nothing to me. Literally nothing. And if you don't give them power over you by accepting that sort of stuff, then they have no power. You know, and now that doesn't mean they can't get you fired from your job or something. If that happens, it sucks. But until more of us stand up and say, we no longer accept this as a valid tactic. You don't just scream racism or bigotry every time you disagree with someone. It's done. It's overplayed. We're not those people, so shut your mouth. And I wish more conservatives would wake up and start doing that.
Right. Well, no shit, man. Because it's like, how can you compensate for something that happened 400 fucking years ago? Or 200 years ago even, you know? 5 years ago. You know, it's like it's done. Right. It's that shit's in the rearview mirror, man. We can't go back and fix shit. You know what we got, you know, are issues now, and the whole historical justice thing is just it's bullshit. And a lot of these guys, you know, are like it comes across to me as being like a cult. You know, they've got this kind of cultish mentality. You know, there's certain verbiage they use. And there's certain, you know, purity tests, you know, that kind of crap that goes on within the ranks, man. And it's just I don't know, man.
Well, you're starting to see. Here's something that I think. I hate to give advice because who the hell am I? But something that I think is a valid strategy moving forward is my voice doesn't matter because we've lost the culture war so much. So I don't give a shit that I happen to be white. I don't give a shit that I happen to be male. I don't give a shit that I happen to be straight. These are all characteristics that are irrelevant as to my ideas or my arguments. To me, But because we've lost the culture war so much, those things are used against people like me. And so when you start to see other people that are standing up to this shit, like Dave Chappelle or Kyrie Irving, like you might say, who gives a shit what celebrities think? But that matters. Or Nicki Minaj. Like that stuff matters because those are the groups of people that they have told us, oh, by virtue of who they are, their opinion matters more than yours. Okay. Well, now they're starting to wake up to how ridiculous this is. And, you know, I'll give you another example. Someone like Destiny, who we mentioned. Look, Destiny has a far greater ability to convince people on the left that the left is going too far than I do, right? Because the average lefty is not going to listen to me. But they'll listen to someone that they think's a persuasive person on the left. And so I think there's room for hope because when you see with this Rittenhouse trial, there were Democrats all over the place that were waking up. I had a friend who's a moderate Democrat, real smart guy, real cool guy. I talked to him 2 days before the verdict. And, you know, I was like, yeah, the fact that everyone thinks that Rittenhouse shot black people. And he's like, well, he did. And I was like, no, he didn't. And I made him look it up while we were there on the phone. And he's like, holy shit, are you kidding me? I was like, yeah, that's how disingenuous the media is to you. Right. That's how bad they lie to you. And so I think there's room for optimism. I think people are starting to wake up. And those of us that have kind of been telling them all wrong, you know, and yes, you got rooms for I told you so's, but more importantly, you should say, great, now that you realize it, look at what else they're lying to us about.
Right, exactly. It's just the fucking tip of the iceberg.
Right.
All right, so let's get into like some of your developmental. What do you think like made you gravitate towards arguing and you see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
Yeah.
So honest to goodness, my first start of arguing would be over sports. As a kid, I had a brother that's 2 years younger than me. I had a dad that was very opinionated, and we would, you know, and my friends, we would have dumb arguments over, you know, I'm from around the Pittsburgh area, rural Pennsylvania around Pittsburgh. So I was, you know, if you can imagine, I don't know how much baseball was my favorite sport. So, you know, 92 was the last year the Pirates had a winning season. So my entire like teenage life, the Pirates were the worst team in baseball. So we'd sit around and just yell about how bad they were and what they needed to do to get better and things like that. But I liked arguing. I liked talking, and that was it. I could have cared less about politics. I happened to graduate high school in 2002. That was the year of 9/11. My senior year was September 11. And I did the morning announcements the day that 9/11 happened. But I still didn't think about politics. It wasn't until I got my first year of college there, I took a debate class. And the class was pretty simple. It was rudimentary debates. But the professor was like, instead of taking the final, if you go to this debate tournament, you don't have to do the final. So I said, okay. And I got hammered the night before the debate tournament. And so I showed up and told the coach, I was like, dude, I'm hungover. I can't go. And he's like, get your ass in the van. It was in Ohio. So I went and I actually won the tournament. Now it was the rookie level. And so I thought I was king shit. And I was like, here I am, man. First debate tournament, won it. I'm going to be like the best debater ever. Now a rookie tournament is, there's 3 divisions in collegiate debate. There is no divisions in terms of like tier 1 schools versus tier 2 schools. So it's not like college football where, right, you know, a little state school is not going to play Penn State or play Alabama. You debate Yale, you debate Harvard, you debate the Naval Academy, Northwestern, and I went to Clarion University, so they never heard of me or my school. So my first tournament ever, and I don't know, maybe your audience will like this. My first tournament ever, I was debating with my novice tournament, the second tournament. Rookie was, you've never debated ever before, and it's halfway through the season. So I started the second semester at novice. Novice is the base level. Then after a year or two of experience, you bump up to JV, and then finally you're open or varsity, which is the top tier. So my first novice tournament, I walked into the first round, and this is basically what I heard. Let me pull up an article here. I don't know if people like this. Let's see. So it was something like this. People were like, they started to read evidence, and it would sound something like this. Geez, the internet's crapping out on me.
Never does that on me.
Here we go. Right. It sounds something like this. So we walk in and they're like, South Dakota to build $400,000 fence around the governor's residence amid coronavirus candidates. This is Moreno in 2000. South Dakota's planning to build a $400,000 fence to the government runs on the recommendation of the officials of the unspecified threats of Chris Nolan or home frogs of the Hill confirmed Thursday. Nolan's aligned herself to President Trump meets a monster champion. Hot speed supported the coronavirus pandemic and response to reportedly threats last week. And the bikers announced South Dakota's church is probably making one of the largest gatherings. So they started talking like that, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I couldn't understand a word they're saying. And so, like, I got smoked. My partner was this girl I'd basically never met. She's bawling her eyes out. And we went 0-6. We didn't win one round. And what made me want to be a debater, because like halfway through that tournament, I was like, shit, I don't know, this is stupid. Like, this isn't debate. It's just people talking like auctioneers. But my third round, I debated this team for Liberty University. 2 girls, they happen to be very good. And they came up to me after the round and said, don't worry, you weren't the worst team we ever debated. And that pissed me off so bad that it took me 3 years to catch up to that team. But 3 years later, I debated them at varsity at the top level, and I crushed them. And I walked up to them 3 years later and said, don't worry, you're not the worst team I ever debated. I held that grudge for 3 damn years. But that was it. Like, I was hooked after that. I was like, I want to be the best at this. And then after I started to do it, I became what I would consider a Ron Paul Republican, which made the debate community is the left of the left. It's the extreme left. So if you were if you were a Clintonite, that made you right wing in the debate community, right? Like Bernie Sanders is a moderate in the debate community. We're talking like radical leftists. And so I was considered fringe right wing by being a Ron Paul supporter, but that's how I got into it. And then I busted my ass for 4 years. The end of the story is basically that I was one of the first people from a state school ever to qualify for the national debate tournament, which is the top 72 teams in the country. So yeah, I got pretty good. I wasn't top tier. I was probably the tier right below that by the time I quit. So
you weren't exposed to it until college?
Not really, not debate.
Wow.
Like I argued, right? And then debate in that format, it's very different. Like it's very regimented. Like, so you're talking like an auctioneer. The types of arguments you're making are insane. Like everything's nuclear war. You're like, oh, we have to pass Bush's tax cuts. If not, the economy will collapse and it's nuclear war. And then the other team's like, yeah, but if you do pass the tax cuts, it'll cause us to cut more redwood trees in California, which will destroy the environment, which causes nuclear war. And so it's so dumb. Like, but it teaches you to think fast, and it teaches you to argue 2 sides of an issue and stuff like that. But then when you get out in the real world, like real world people, what are you going to do? Talk a mile a minute to them? They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
And unfortunately, that's something that's stuck with me. My normal cadence, like even talking now, I'm probably talking fast and don't realize it because it's just, I don't know. It was ingrained into me for 4.5, 5 years. But yeah, that's where I got my love of politics and my love of debating.
That's fantastic. So this is an interesting question that I rarely get to ask people. So what do you think draws you to the right side of politics? What attracts? So if I have to, it's almost like if I'm trying to be a psychologist to myself, right? If I had to be as honest as possible, I think that one of my most fundamental characteristics is that I'm a contrarian or that I root for underdogs. Mm-hmm. And so part of me is like every institution being on the left, or at least claiming to be on the left. Because if you argue with the leftists, they'll say, well, academia is not really on the left. Corporate America and tech companies aren't really on the left. The media is not really on the left. They're just pretending. Whatever, same thing. To me, it's the same thing. They're pretending or they are on the left. And so I ultimately realize I have a distrust of authority that's like, well, if everything's pushing me one direction, I'm pushing back the other direction. But the other reason for it's quite simple. I came to respect the people that I debated against, particularly the ones that were better than me, but they were all more left-wing than me. They were all wealthy, went to schools that were far better than my school. But the people that I always respected the most were those people back home that could do the shit that I couldn't do. So I'm the worst handyman you'll ever see. I can't, all the stuff that all my friends and family did, like hunting or working on cars or riding 4-wheelers or you name it, anything you associate with rural America, I am the fucking worst at. Other than drinking, I'm a pretty good drinker. And that's about it. It's not so much anymore now that I'm a dad. But so I always had these 2 worlds going on at the same time. And it's really funny because when I qualified for the national debate tournament, Clarion University for decades had tried to qualify for this tournament. And my kind of mentor that debated before me,
my first year was his last year, and he came one round away from making it, and it devastated him. He worked for 4 years, and then he didn't make it. So when I worked for 4 years and I finally made it, it was a huge deal to like generation of people from Clarion University debate. It was a huge honor. And when I went home and I told my dad, I was like, yeah, I qualified for this tournament. He could give two shits less. And it wasn't that he didn't like me. It's just that he doesn't know that world.
Right.
Like, I might as well have been like, hey, I won the baking championship. He'd be like, great. Did you bring any cookies home? Like, you know, like I'd talk to my dad. He'd be like, well, what do you debate about? And I was like, well, we were debating, for example, whether or not we should end corn subsidies. And my dad would be like, I'd just tell him to suck my dick. That's what I would say. I was like, yeah, well, believe it or not, that argument's not persuasive to them, you know. But that's my dad. He's a great guy. And that's the people. I love my family. I love my dad. Those are the people I watch, you know. I watch those people work 60, 70 hours a week, making shit money, living in a shit town, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're the happiest people you'd ever meet in your life. Those are the people that I want to hang out with. And, you know, that's when I ran for Congress in 2019. And I told people the reason I'm running is I'm different than those people. I'm different than these people in rural America that I live with. And not that I'm different, that I think I'm better. I'm different because I suck at all the stuff that I think makes you a great person. I suck at all that stuff. And so what I saw was I have a talent for speaking, and I felt like those people deserve a voice, and they don't have one. And I'm sick and tired of all of our institutions shitting on these people that are the salt of the earth, that make this country what it is, that are blue-collar workers. And not only do they have a raw deal, but also they want to be left alone. That's it.
Yeah,
you know,
no shit.
They'll sit there and bitch. They'll bitch. Oh, you know, that football player, he's being paid $10 million to catch that ball and he dropped it. Like, they'll complain like that, but guess what? They're still buying the jersey, right? And if you were a socialist, you would talk to them and be like, how can you accept this system? Your work's worth more than that person entertaining you. And they'll just be like, we don't want to hear that shit. We just want to drink our beer and be left alone. You know, and that's all they want. And instead, they're treated like garbage over and over and over again by every major institution. So that's what motivates me to get involved, because it's like, where is the voice for those people? We constantly hear, listen, I'm not going to bullshit you. Every group in this country, any way that you could identify as a group, you face unique challenges. You think Black Americans don't face unique challenges? Of course they do. Do they have the right to say we want to come together to advocate for these challenges? Of course they have that right. But here's the difference. Even though those challenges are unique and they could be worse or easier, I don't know, than problems that people in my community face. And by the way, I don't associate my community by race. I associate it by economic status and geography, rural America. That's what I defend. I don't give a shit your skin color. What do I care? But the difference is this. People take those other groups seriously. Like the entertainment industry is constantly talking about problems in the inner city and corporate America and academia and the media. What do they say about the problems in rural America? Oh, flyover country. Yeah. A bunch of toothless rednecks. So, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm trying to show, like, actually, these are the greatest people on the earth. And just because they don't talk like you, once in a while, there's some asshole like me that does talk like you. And by the way, I'm better at talking like you than you. And I understand that those people are better, or at least as good as you. And so that's what motivates me, because I feel I owe it to people that have helped me through my whole life, that are good at the things I'm not. If I'm good at something that could kind of help out, then I owe it to them.
That's excellent, man. You know, it's like because it's like, it's almost like an altruistic undertaking that you've adopted, right? You know, and I appreciate that, man. Well,
I will say, before people think I'm too great, there's only one reason I stream, though, because I have fun doing it. That's it. The moment it becomes not fun, then I'm done doing it. It doesn't pay the bills, you know. Right. Now, what I talk about is because I appreciate these people, but at the end of the day, I'm no great person. You know, I'm just doing what I like doing. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, how come sometimes you stop doing debates? Because I didn't feel like it that week. That's why. It's that simple. Do you know your channel could get bigger if you did this, this, and this? Probably. I don't care. I just do it to have fun. Do I want to see my channel grow? Sure. Do I want politically things to go the direction I want? Sure. But at the end of the day, I just like having fun. That's what it is.
Right. I totally get that, man. You know, it's because if it's not fun, why do it? That's exactly. I did this thing for years, a couple of years, and my whole deal was like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And at some point, I just said, fuck it, right? And it's like, I'm not having any goddamn fun at all. So I want to make shit I want to watch. I want to do, content that, and every show that I've got like multiple shows a week, and everyone's different, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. But it's like, I'm trying to tie this in with the questions I've got written down. All right, so let's shift gears a minute and talk about your aesthetics, man. Do you like to read, watch TV, movies, anything like that? Any kind of, Americana?
Sure. Yeah. So I've this year in my life, I've read more books in a year than in any other point in my life. But that's because they're all for my baby Hank, and they're all like 4 pages in cardboard. But that still counts.
It does, doesn't it?
It sounds impressive to go to a party and be like, yeah, man, I read 12 books this week. Like, damn, how many hours did you put in? About 15 minutes. They're all 4 pages a piece.
That's funny as shit.
By the way, I count rereading. No, I love, I love reading, like some of my favorite, I love reading like the Founding Fathers and things like that, like the Federalist Papers. I read things like that, Common Sense and things like that, Thomas Paine from back in the day. But that's not really what I do for enjoyment. I like reading some of the classics, like I read some Dickens. I enjoy reading, like I'm reading a Victor David Hanson book right now.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I've read James Lindsay's recent book about like critical race theory and stuff like that. That was a good read. But I don't read near as much as I should. It's I would guess if I could be quite honest, I would think that I probably read slightly less than the average political streamer, believe it or not. I do a lot of politics reading, like news and stuff like that, but as far as books and stuff, not so much. Entertainment wise and movie wise, it's a mixed bag. If I'm picking, I used to love old school wrestling, like in the 90s when I was in school. I loved that style of wrestling and like the 80s to 90s wrestling. I used to like comic books and stuff like that. Nowadays, I still like action movies. I'm a big sucker for like the old Arnold and the Stallone action movies. But what I'm watching now is generally stuff that me and my wife could watch. We've been watching Ink Master. So like the show with like the competition tattoo show, and we each pick our favorites who we think's going to win at the beginning of the season. And 4 seasons running now, she's beat me. So not very good at picking who's a good tattooer, apparently.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, do you have any tattoos?
I do not. No piercings, no tattoos. Nope.
No scars?
Scars I have. So I tell you a story. This one time I went in this blind, it was like a double date with my roommate. And so he knew this girl. He went out on a date with her and brought her friend. She was an attractive chick, and we're out at the bar, and she has these short shorts on, and she pulls the short up like up her thigh, and she's got this huge scar where she claims a shark bit her, which I have no reason to dispute it. And then I showed her this. I don't know if you can see, but I got a scar. You can't tell. It's right here. A hamster bit me one time, and I was like, yeah, check that out. Hamster bite. She wasn't impressed. I thought it was good, but I got couple little scars like that. I got a staple in the back of my head where I fell out of my chair when I was in 2nd grade, but nothing super gnarly or anything like that. I got a ton of chest hair, if you can see. Chest and back hair I got plenty of, but not a lot of scars.
Dude, yeah, I'm covered in hair except on my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yeah, me too. That's why I'm wearing the hat.
Like God's got a sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say, so we kind of touched. What about your high school years? What was that like? And
so I went to a little high school. I basically have lived in the same 20-mile radius my whole life. When I was in high school, I did as many activities as I could. So I actually was a decent wrestler until about 10 years old. I almost qualified for states one year. It wasn't great, but it was okay. I developed asthma, and wrestling took me out of, because it's so laborious. Like it's just hard. There's no room to hide in wrestling. So, but I kept playing. I played Little League until I was 12. I was a pretty good football player, was okay. Probably in the top 25% of my team, but I wasn't going to get any college scholarships or anything. But then I was also in band. I joined show choir my senior year because there was a girl I liked, and then I quickly didn't like her. And my dad was the kind of dad that his only rule when it came to things like that was, if you sign up for something, you're committing to do it until it's over, right? It didn't matter what. Like, that was his big thing. People count on you. So if you join a team, you don't quit halfway through. You finish it out, even if you hate it. So I got stuck in show choir my senior year. But I did a bunch of stuff. I was in jazz band. I played French horn and trumpet. Oh, wow. And I was a funny kid. I got voted class clown. I was pretty popular. I was good even then at making fun of people. And I'm not going to say that I didn't make fun of some people that didn't deserve it, because I did, but mostly I was poor. I was friends with a lot of kids that were considered weird kids. Like, I had friends all over the place. I was friends with the jocks. I was friends with like the druggies. I was friends with like kind of the goth type kids and the band kids. And so I had a reputation for, you know, trying to stick up for the people that, you know, my best friend was a guy that people made fun of all the time, and I was always sticking up for him. So I was in a scrap or two. I wouldn't say, I think I have a losing record in fights I've been in my life, but I never minded it. If it had to happen, it had to happen. I wasn't quick to violence or anything, but yeah, I liked school. I had fun with it, and you know, I made a lot of friends. It was weird because then I went to college 20 minutes away from my high school. You know, those first couple years, you're hanging out with the same people. But now, if I'm honest, I graduated with a class of maybe 90, and I think I probably talked to 2 or 3 of those people. So, but yeah, I enjoyed high school. I thought it was a good experience for me. I won't say that I had a good school in terms of learning a lot. I probably learned more outside of school than in school, but socially, I had a lot of fun with it.
So, all right. So, what about what's your go-to music? What do you like to listen to?
Right now, like classic country. So like Waylon Jennings or Jerry Reed. I missed an opportunity, even though he's old as dirt now. But oh man, what's David Allan Coe played 10 minutes from where I'm at here a while ago. I heard he's wheelchair bound and doesn't quite sound the same, but still, I met him once though when I was 17. It was pretty cool. That was a trip. I met him at that friend I was talking about, his uncle's place out in Ohio, and they were like some, you know, poor white trash, as David Allan Coe would say, the greatest people in the world. You know, I was hanging out with them. That was a lot of fun.
He's a legend, dude. You know,
great. Love David Allan Coe. Yeah, that old, so classic country. But I listen to a lot of. I like some of this modern country that, like, I can't stand what people think of modern country, like the sort of like pop sounding country. But there are some people out there like I like this band, the Drive By Truckers. They've kind of became a little too liberal for my liking recently, but their older stuff's absolutely fantastic. The Avett Brothers, I could say the same of them. Sturgill Simpson, fantastic. Tyler Childers, fantastic. They kind of got that old folksy, twangy country sound. I love that. But I like all types of music. First concert I ever went to was the Dead Kennedys. They're an old punk band.
Yeah, dude.
Second, great. Loved old punk. Yeah, that was the first show I went. Unfortunately, Jello Biafra, who's the most famous member, the lead singer of that band, him and the guitar, well, he's social, and then him and the guitar player, East Bay Ray, have restraining orders out, at least they did, against each other. And so Jello wasn't there. So there were like basically 2 acts of the Dead Kennedys touring. There was Jello's Dead Kennedys and East Bay Ray's. So I saw East Bay Ray's Dead Kennedys, but it was kind of a trip because we went and it was in Pittsburgh, and I went with my friend who worked on a farm, you know, and we're there looking like hicks, and the 4th song or something, they paused and they told this story about this gay kid that got jumped by a bunch of like rednecks in some town, and they're like, "You see any of these fucking rednecks? You beat their ass." And me and my friend Corbin are like, "Oh shit!" Like, we're like, "No, it wasn't us, man. We like the Dead Kennedys." So the second band I ever saw was 6 Feet Under, a death metal band. Chris Barnes used to sing for Cannibal Corpses, was their lead singer. So I used to go to Ozfest every year. I used to go to Warped Tour every year. So yeah, I like punk. I like metal, classic country. And then you know, I'm a huge fan of classic rock, you know? So I like me some like Ronnie James Dio, Black Sabbath, stuff like that. So I'll listen to about even, you know, and I truly believe there's talent in almost any genre. I think the more poppy you get, the more it sucks. You know, I'll listen to old rap. I'll listen to like Digital Underground. I'll listen to Curtis Blow, you know. Yeah. I could even listen to Biggie or like, you know, Run DMC or something. I could understand their style there. Not really my favorite music, but you know, I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's you know, it's interesting. It's like you talk about modern country. It's kind of like a more country progression of what Southern rock was doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, modern country is kind of what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind some of it, right? Like for example, and I don't even know, I'm out of the loop too. Like culturally, I'm 10 years in the past, right? So like if I'm listening, if I'm hanging out with my wife's sister who's a little younger, and she's running the radio, you know, I'm never listening to the radio. I'm listening to like Spotify. I'm listening to Jerry Reed. And so she'll put stuff on and she'll put on the country station. I'm like, what is this shit? You know, modern country to me was like Toby Keith, you know, which is like, it's okay. Like, this is okay, but it's still getting away from what I like. A lot of this, like if you hear a woman singing modern country now, to me, that's what I considered pop music in the 90s. Like, it sounds like Christina Aguilera or something to me, which is fine. I'm not saying it's not talented, but it's That's not country to me, you know?
Right. I totally get that, man. All right. So what about the first time, like, you realized that chicks were, like, you know, interesting from a romantic standpoint?
You know, in the high school, like, I was so, in fact, up until my wife, I am the type of person, you could put me on a stage in front of 10,000 people and I could give a speech like that. I'd be nervous before I walk out, but once I'm there, I'm fine. I couldn't talk to girls, man. I was terrible. I was so, like, had such low self-esteem. You know, I probably had 4 serious girlfriends my entire life. I'm 37. And when I say serious, I mean, like, dated for more than 3 months. And most of them, it was about 3 months. So in high school, I had like 1 serious girlfriend. And the couple years after that, I had about 3. And then when I met my wife, you know, our mutual friend had to tell me like 4 times, like, did you call her yet? Because she likes you. And I was like, yeah, you're just being polite to me. And she's like, no, she likes you. What the hell are you doing? Call her. So, you know, I had a lot of girls that I was friends with that I was either friends with and not romantically interested, or that I just was too nervous to ever approach. So yeah, I was by no means was I ever a ladies' man. And, you know, I wasn't even looking for a girlfriend when I met my wife. And I don't think she was looking for a boyfriend. And I think that had a lot to do with us clicking because there wasn't any pressure. It was just like, oh, you will go out on a couple dates. And yeah, it went from there. And I couldn't be happier. It worked out for me pleasantly. So I guess I'm glad I wasn't more of a ladies' man, or maybe I would have never met her. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that I wasn't interested. It was just I wasn't very good and didn't have the highest opinion of myself in that way. So I wasn't like getting a lot of dates.
That's a real common thing, man, is not being looking for it when you meet them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I met my wife. I wasn't even near being interested in falling in love or nothing, you know, or even going out with chicks or nothing. You know, it's like I met this girl at the library and she ripped my heart out, man. We've been together like 30 years now.
Yeah, and I can tell you the joke my wife made. She said her friend was dating my brother, and she said, the first time I hung out with her, she said, hey, maybe my friend and your brother will get married. Maybe we'll get married someday. She's like, I'm an awesome cook. What would you bring to a marriage? And I said, a good backhand. And she laughed. And I was like, oh, what an awesome chick. Ironically, she could kick the shit out of me. And she's listening now. So it ended up she brought the good backhand and the cooking. So, but no, she's great. She's funnier than me. And she's just an awesome person. So, yeah, it worked out. But isn't it funny as you get older, like you look back and you're like, confidence is 99% of trying to find a date, and now you look back and it's like so much stuff when you were younger that like, oh my God, I get so nervous. Am I going to do good in this test? And now you look at it as an adult with kids and you're like, I can't believe I was ever nervous about something like that. Right. Like I was nervous to ask a girl out because she'd reject me. Now it's like, who cares? Like, who would have cared if you got rejected? But yeah, it's funny. You learn this stuff as you get older, you know?
No doubt, man. And, you know, you realize that there were like ends too. You had no clue of it, right? You know, it's like, man, that chick, oh, I get it. You know, it's like.
And has this ever happened to you? You'll run into someone that like maybe you had a crush on or someone you were in high school, and then 5-10 years down the road, you're talking to her or someone she knows, and they're like, oh, by the way, she liked you. And it's like, you know, I never had the nerve to say anything. And then she probably felt the same way about you. And it's just kid stuff, you know, not having confidence. And it's an important lesson to learn for other things in life too. Sometimes, you know, you just have to have the confidence to try and understand that. You know, I have this speech I read the other day on my channel that Teddy Roosevelt wrote. It's called The Arena. And I was talking about it in terms of debating people. And basically, I'll just summarize this speech. It's eloquent, though. He says, the people that sat outside the arena watching the combatants, they could complain and say that they're good or something, but they're not in the arena. Even the person that loses in the arena accomplished something because they put themselves on the line. And those people outside the arena will never know that feeling. And that's true of life. If you sit in the sidelines because you're afraid you'll lose, then you've done worse than losing. So, no doubt. That's how when people ask me about these debates, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? I lose. Someone educates me and I'm like, wow, you made really good points there. So what? And so if you approach it with that attitude, it's like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Sure, I'll debate you on your topic that you think you know way more than me. Maybe you do. and then I'll walk away a smarter person. That's fine too, you know. But most of the time, it doesn't work that way. Most of the time, I win.
Right. What about the first time you got shit faced? What was that? What's that about?
That's
fucked up. All right.
So, yeah. So it would be booze. Let's see. The first time I got drunk would have been, the first time I ever drank alcohol was I had a friend, two friends that we were kind of in a band, and we went to his dad's house, and he had a bottle of Mad Dog 2020, and we split it in thirds. My friend probably weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. He got hammered off a third of a bottle of Mad Dog, and me and my other friend that were there, we did not get drunk. But my friend that was drunk was like, no, you're drunk. And I was like, okay. So I would have been a junior in high school. And so then 2 weeks later, we're at a different party, and they got a handle of Jim Beam. Now, I understood that Jim Beam was stronger, but I didn't understand how much stronger. So I drank a third of a bottle of Jim Beam, and then I ended up puking my guts out. And I had a blast, though. And, you know, ever since then, you know, that was when I was 17. I didn't touch alcohol before that. But going into my senior year, probably every other weekend I was drinking. And then when I got to college, I mean, I was drinking. I never missed work because I was drinking. I never missed a debate tournament because I was drinking. But other than that, I was drinking almost every time I could. I mean, I would say I was an alcoholic, but I was a good social drunk. I didn't drink alone, and I had a blast. And I mean, I could shotgun beers like you wouldn't believe. I could drink beer in a mug in like 2 seconds. I used to like do these drinking competitions with people and stuff, but I loved it. You know, as far as other drugs like weed and stuff, because I had asthma, it was tough to do weed. I'd smoke though, and then I would do edibles and stuff like that. But I honestly don't like the feeling of being high. I just don't. I prefer to be drunk. And then I did other shit too. You know, I did other stuff. And people say, aren't you worried that if you admit that and you run for Congress again, that'll bite you in the ass? No. And the reason is this, because the only thing I can control is not being a hypocrite in that sense. So you ain't going to hear me pushing for hard drug laws and stuff like that, because I'm like, who would I be to say that? I did all this shit, you know? So big deal. You know, at least I'm not a hypocrite about it, but that's the honest truth. And I loved it. I loved partying. But I grew up. Once I met my wife, you know, all my friends think, oh, your wife's, you know, she wouldn't allow you to go out. That's not true at all. You grow up, you know, all of a sudden hanging out with 30 random dudes, like puking your guts out. You know, it's not that important anymore. You got other shit going on. And I think it's funny. I don't know if you were a big partier or something, but I always look back nostalgically like, yeah, man, it was fun. You'd wake up by noon, you'd be drunk, then you'd fall asleep and get back up and drink again and blah, blah, blah. You know, but what you never remember, you have to really think about is the next mornings. It's not just feeling sick. If you've never had this happen, this is the worst feeling in the world. You wake up and you know you pissed someone off, but you don't know who. And so all day you're running into your friends and you're like tiptoeing like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, great, how have you been, man? And you're like, okay, that's good. You know, and then by the end of the night, someone storms in and is like, you owe me an apology. You're like, shit. I knew I did something stupid, you know. I don't miss those days.
No, man, I totally understand that. Do you have any like strange collections?
No, not really. No, my dad collects old bottles and stuff like that, collects coins and old money. But no, I don't have any strange collections or anything like that. When I was young, I collected like Magic the Gathering cards and comic books and stuff because I was a nerd. But nope, nothing like that, no.
You played Magic?
I did. Not like competitively, just amongst friends, but yeah.
Right. Let's see.
And yes, before anyone asks, I did like and still do like some anime, which probably just lost me half my subscribers, but that's okay.
Talk about that. What's your favorite anime series and character?
My favorite's probably Cowboy Bebop, which I'm rewatching again. I'm like the second to last episode because they made a live action show, which I hear is absolutely terrible, but I figured out because I liked the show, and that was probably the first real anime I watched. Dragon Ball Z was big when I was young, and I watched it, but I was never into it as much as like Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, the shows that they'd play on Adult Swim late at night. That was kind of my foray into anime, and I just like... I think that people mock you for anime, but I see a lot of similarities between anime and like the 80s action movies I like. So like one of my favorite movies is like Commando. Commando is basically a live action anime. Like it's over the top. It's surreal, right? Yes. Like this dude lifting cars up and shooting 1,000 bullets and holding chain guns that a normal human barely could lift, let alone shoot accurately. Like I guess basically anime shit. You know, so I liked that. And I also was a sucker before it was Now it's popular all over the place. I liked long series, right? I liked the idea that if I watched a movie, it was only 2 hours, and if it was good, you felt like you were wanting more. But if you got into an anime, it might be like 30 hours runtime. So I like that. I felt like you got more out of the story. Now you see that all the time. Like if you, some of these, most of the, your TV shows are just as well produced as movies now. So like, if you like Dexter, I mean, shit, they brought it back.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
if you've never seen Dexter and you like it, you'll watch episode 1 and you're like, great, I got 90 hours of this to watch, So it feels like there's more there for you.
You can probably leave out the last 2 episodes before this new season. So,
Yeah, the last season, the last season before this new one, I haven't seen the new one. The last season before it, I thought was terrible of Dexter.
Dude, it was horrible.
Yep.
That's something we can definitely...
Well, that was during the writer's strike, too. So
yeah,
I think
exactly. Man, writer strikes have fucked up more things. I mean, really.
It's unreal. You're right. The shows that got screwed up during that, yeah,
No,
crazy.
I make up shit for a living, man, and it's like I'm not getting paid enough. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, I hear you, but it's always comparative, right? Like they're looking. It's the same with the NFL, right? On one hand, you could be like, "What are you complaining about?" But then on the other hand, it's like, well, if you're making $10 million a year and the owners went from making $1 billion a year to $5 billion a year, you might be like, hey, why don't you cut me off a piece of that? Right. I'm sure that's basically what the writer's strike was about. I don't know.
So, do you have a bucket list? Is there anything on that?
So kind of like I one thing that I regret is that I've never traveled much. I've been all up and down the East Coast. I've flown to Texas. But that's it. I've only ever been out of the United States once, and that was to Niagara Falls, which is about 3 hours away from me, which doesn't count because Niagara Falls, Canada is just a U.S. tourist town, so it's basically just the U.S. So I would love to travel. I would love to get an RV once, when Hank's 18, I'll be 55. I would love at that point to have saved up enough money and just travel around with my wife. I think that would be fantastic. But as far as specific things, not really. I guess goals I have, I don't know that it would be the same as a bucket list would. I would ultimately like to either have a radio show, which I had a radio show, but it was very small time. But I'd like to do like a talk radio thing or to a lesser extent run for Congress and win that. I think that would piss me off being in Congress. So I would be better suited to just complain about Congress on the radio. But those are goals that I have.
Oh, dude, I would love to see you go toe to toe with bitches like Illinois Moore and AOC and shit, man.
I ran for Congress. I did. So there was a special election. So in Pennsylvania here, District 12, it's kind of crazy. Like people in District 12 were kind of pissed I ran because I don't live in District 12. But I had my whole life. What happened was they redistrict. So what I used to be part of what eventually became District 12, but then because they redrew the lines that year, I wasn't there anymore. But my point was like, well, I've lived here my whole life. It's not like I moved, Anyways, the reason I ran, it's kind of a long story. I'll make it as quick as possible. The establishment Republican Party doesn't want you stepping on anyone's toes. So they don't want you primarying a Republican, right? So they get real pissy about it. Which part of you's like, well, why do you care? Well, I don't really, except if you have no money and no name, you have no chance of winning if the Republican Party is against you as well. Like, it would just be damn near impossible to then run as a Republican and win. It's doable, but you'd have to have a lot of time and energy, which working full-time, I didn't. So when an election opened up in District 12, there was a special election. So a guy named Tom Marino won in 2018, and then he had a serious illness. So instead of dropping out, if he would have dropped out, it would have guaranteed the Democrat won. So he ran, won, and then dropped. And so then there had to be a special election. Now, District 12 is the most conservative district in Pennsylvania. So whoever wins the Republican nomination is going to win. And because it was a special election, it wasn't the same as a regular election where there's a primary and everyone who's registered Republican in Pennsylvania gets to vote in that primary. And then if you get the most votes, you're the Republican nominee. Instead, the way it worked was each county in the district got a number of conferees, and those conferees got to vote. And so it came out to 212 conferees plus like 30 alternates. So you were running for 212 votes. That's it. So it's not like I could go to the local pizzeria and be like, vote for Rob. It wouldn't work because all those people would be like, oh, how do I vote for you? Well, you can't unless you're a conferee. So instead, my job was to try to talk to every single conferee and go to dinners and stuff like that. And so I ran, and I thought Like, you have this idea. Like, I picture it like this. Like, picture that you are friends with someone and they're like, hey, we're going to bring you to this cool dinner and it's going to be all of these surgeons, like really high-end surgeons, right? And when you're going to that dinner, you'd probably be a little nervous, like, these people are going to be geniuses. I'm going to walk in and they're just going to, I'm not going to understand what they're talking. And then you show up and they're like lighting their farts and they're shotgunning beers and shit. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, that's how I felt running for Congress. I was kind of intimidated. Like, I'm going to show up and these people that I'm running against are all lifelong politicians and they're going to be impressive. They were not. They were not impressive in the least bit. In fact, the first event I was at, I started talking about the 10th Amendment, and my wife was there with me, and she told me afterwards, she's like, they were all looking it up on their phone.
Holy
and these
shit.
are people that had, yeah, like, no shit. These are people that had been, most of them had been involved in politics 20, 30 years, either in Harrisburg at the state level or, you know, working for people at the federal level. And so I knew I wouldn't win, but I did well enough. Of 24 people that ran, I think I took 8th. And in the top 10, you got to give a speech at the convention. And I gave a speech. I was the only one that got a standing ovation giving a speech. And the speech I told was basically, it's kind of like some of the stuff I was saying here. I was like, let me tell you who I am. I'm the worst hunter you'll ever meet. And I told a story about me sucking hunting and a story about me sucking working on cars, and everyone's laughing. And I was like, you know, I'm here for one reason, because I'm a good talker and I'm interested in politics. And we're tired of putting you Republicans in office and you not giving a shit about the people from my area of the world. And so I know I'm not going to win today, but I want to let you know that if you keep going to Washington and ignoring us, eventually someone like me is coming for your job. And I got a standing ovation. Now, they didn't vote for me, but I got a standing ovation. And that's how I honestly felt. So, you know, I might run for office again at some point, but I made this commitment that I wasn't going to accept donations. And I've made less than $15 an hour my whole life until this last year. I make about $15.50 an hour. So I didn't have money to spend. I spent $7,000 that I mostly put in credit cards that I'm still paying off to run for Congress, and refused to take any donations. And so people were like, when are you going to run again? I was like, well, first, I'm taking donations this time if I run. And second, it's a commitment, man. How do you be a full-time father plus work 70, 80 hours a week plus run for Congress? It's tough. So,
Dude,
you know,
yeah.
We'll see.
You got your stuff cut out. You said you were in like rural outside of Pittsburgh. Were there any like Civil War battles where you in your town? Not close to me. No, there were little skirmishes and things like that. There were actually more, I think, revolutionary battles that occurred near where I'm at. So I'll tell you, I'm in Clarion County. Yeah, I'm in Clarion County, and there was the town I grew up in was called New Bethlehem, and we had a little hill. We called it Fish Basket Hill. There's a river that runs through, and it's a little hill. And the reason it's called Fish Basket is because there was Indian tribes that settled there, and there was a lot of Indian conflicts in the area. So when we were growing up, we would go along the riverbed. You could find arrowheads and stuff like that. A lot of cool, like even old pottery and stuff like that you could find. So it was a cool area to grow up with historically like that. But you know, one of my favorite, my wife asks all the time, we rarely go on vacation, but like every 3 years she'll be like, we should go on vacation for a couple days. Where do you want to go? I'm like, Gettysburg. I love Gettysburg. It's like only like 3 hours away, and that's one of my favorite places to visit. No doubt. What's the most useless talent you
have? Useless talent. I could whistle really loud. That might be that. We might think it would be useful in little things. Like I have 2 dogs, and it used to be when they were puppies I could whistle and they'd come to me. But now they know. Like I'm the type. I don't know. Everyone's different. Like I'm not judging anyone. I have never raised a hand to my dogs, and my one dog's 11. And at this point, she's just like, "What are you gonna do to me? Nothing. You're just gonna yell and whistle, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I want. You're not gonna do anything." So I have no authority. My whistle. You know, some might say my most useless talent's debating for all the good it does on most people. But
so Roots Calhoun, my bud, tips $1 and says Rob is the type of dude we need in politics, and Yeti and Jog are gay. I don't know who that is. Who's Yeti?
Probably
Yeti
no. Listen, here's the deal, right? The type of people we want in politics. This is why I would be a good politician. Want to know why? Because I hate the city. And I hate Washington. And so every moment that I'm in Washington, I'm going to be going, I can't wait to get back to rural Pennsylvania with the people I represent. Right. And because what happens is, even I think some people with good intentions, they get represented from an area like me. Most of them don't have good intentions, but the ones that do, then you go to Washington and all the glitz and glams, and you're making friends with the cool people in the in crowd. And, ooh, Jake Tapper wants to have dinner with you. And fuck all that. I don't care about any of that. I'll be like, when do I get to go home? I don't want to be here. And that's the type of person you want in office. Because I'm not going to go there and become a limousine. Like, I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to go home and ride four-wheelers and get drunk and hang out with my family. I don't want to be here with you people. No offense to you people, but I don't want to hang out with you. So, and the other thing is, it was never intended to be a career, right? The founding fathers were all people that were, I don't want to say independently wealthy, but they had shit going on, right? And so it was a service. When you went, you went to serve. It was similar to serving in the military.
Right.
You had to leave your farm, or you had to leave your property, and that you wish you were there taking care of, and then you went advocated for the people that were your constituents. Now it's a career. So yeah, I mean, you want people that aren't doing it because they want a job, because they want to go represent people. So it's not just me. There's here's one thing I'll say to anyone out there. If what's holding you back from running for office is you think that you can't do the job, you're wrong, right? Because the people that are doing the job are some of the least impressive people you could imagine. At the very least, you probably care about the people in your town, in your area. So that alone makes you more qualified than them. You know what you're not as qualified to do? To win an election. That's the problem, right? People like me, I don't have the money or the connections to get the votes. But if I did get the votes, I would be great. And so would 90% of the people listening to this right now. Because the mere fact they care about the country makes them better qualified than 90% of the people in Washington. It's just, how do you get the votes? Right. So don't leave that hold you back. Don't leave it hold you back that you think, oh, geez, if I won, I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, you would. You'd be just fine. It's just you got to worry about winning.
Well, yeah, a great example is that Binger dude. I mean, my God, what an incompetent motherfucker. Yep. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was astounding how inept he was. I mean, watching him just, and the other guy, man, the redheaded dude, the fat dude, it was just like, it's obvious that these are political people, right? And the law thing is like it's somewhere on the back burner. Somebody told me, I know a lot of lawyers, and they told me, man, all you got to do is pass the bar, and I mean, literally, and and Justice Kagan, she wasn't even ever a lawyer. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, we have this thing where it's one of the arguments. It's a very nuanced argument. I don't know how interested my audience is to hear this, but one of the most interesting arguments that I have with people, sort of on a meta level, is the appeal to authority. And, I listen to Scott Adams a lot. I don't agree with everything Scott Adams says, but he's interesting. He thinks differently. And he makes me think about things in a different way. And he talks about the 4 years of Trump and what we've seen since then is one of the greatest eye-opening moments that all of these institutions that we used to appeal to, like, oh, well, they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Right. Like the media, like the CDC, like the FBI, like the CIA, like politicians. Most of them are dumb shits, or they're partisan hacks that even if they're not stupid, they're not interested in doing what their job is anyways. And so once you realize, like, it's amazing when I debate left-wingers, how they have this unrepentant appeal to authority, but only when it benefits them. Trust the science. And I won't talk too much on this. I know we're on YouTube, so I don't want to get you in trouble. But like when they say trust the science and stuff like that, what they really mean is trust it when it agrees with us, but as soon as it questions our narrative, then we don't listen to it. Or fake news. Oh, fake news is terrible. But when their side's reporting fake news, oh, it was an honest mistake, or that's not really fake, or whatever. And so we have this idea as humans where it's like, well, if someone has a certain title, then they must know about that. Have you ever ran into this? You have someone tell you something, they'll be like, well, the fact checkers say. Oh, shit, I could call myself a fact checker. What the hell does that mean? Right. Just because you put the name fact checker in front of your name, now you have some authority? Come on.
Right, and Snopes actually used to be something I would rely on back in the early, when they were first starting out, right? I would use them to, all kinds of hoaxes and shit were coming out, and then they went fucking political, and it was just like, holy shit, it's like the left is deliberately doing this stuff, I don't know where.
I totally agree.
How to articulate exactly what I'm.
No, you're absolutely right. First off, I'm supposed to tell you, Culliver says hi.
Hey, Culver.
Yes, he's listening. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is intentional, right? And here's what happens, right? Like, this is another controversial take. So yesterday I'm debating kind of sort of white nationalists. And one of the arguments I'm making is that, and to me, instead, if you had to choose a group to identify with and to associate with, I would prefer to associate with people that think like me or share the same values as me more than people that look like me. Like, if you had to choose to live with 100 in a town with 100 people and they all were different skin colors, but they all shared your values and you all got along and had fun, or 100 people that all shared your skin color but you couldn't stand them because their values were crazy, wouldn't you choose the people that look different and share your values? I would.
Absolutely.
You know, but something that was difficult to say in that debate, but that is true, is I don't want to live with people that all think exactly like me either. I don't. Now, I hope my arguments win out. I hope my values win out, but you get stagnant. This is what happens to every great empire, right? Eventually they reach such heights that they become complacent. There's nothing to challenge them.
Right.
And then what happens? Eventually they crumble, right? Because that challenging, you've heard the meme, it's going around big now, that's like, good times create weak men create hard times create strong men create good times, right? And it's a cycle, it keeps going. Well, we're at the point, right, where you look at all of these institutions that are dominated by sort of the left or the establishment left, and they've not been challenged for so long that they're incompetent. Right. Like, if you listen to like Joe Biden answer questions from the press, he has no fucking clue what he's talking about. One, because he has dementia, but it's also because the last 20 years of his career, he's never had a serious question from the press.
Right.
So, like, even the people in his agencies, like the other day, they asked that woman, they were like, the energy secretary, they're like, well, how many gallons, how much gas do Americans use on average a day? And she's just like, I don't know. How do you not know that? Like, right. That's your job. You don't know. Job. But they don't expect to be asked a serious question. And so what happens is, like, you look at something like Snopes, for example. For so long, they could just coast on, all we got to do is say what the shithead left wants us to say. And so then, once that veneer falls, once you realize the emperor has no clothes, you're like, holy cow, none of these people legitimately have any clue what they're talking about. They're just repeating the same lines over and over, and they're all in the same bubble, and they're all basically high-fiving each other all the time, talking about how great they are to each other, that as soon as the average person's like, well, wait a minute, do you guys really know what you're talking about? They just sit there dumbfounded. They're like, no, like, but we're better than you, so it doesn't matter. That's their answer. It's
amazing. And the whole idea that the socialism, man, is, oh my God. I'm one of those people. I grew up as a Cold War baby, right? I mean, I was we had quote tornado drills and shit all the time when I was a kid, and the idea of young people just randomly espousing. I mean, and it's most young people right now think that socialism is okay. They think they think that it will be viable, and they say. Well, you say, well, look, man, yeah, but to get that to work properly, you got to kill a lot of people. And they say, no, you don't, and it's like, no, the history has bore this shit out over and over and over and over again. Who are you going to be willing to kill, to have equity?
Well, we could see it. We see it in, right? How many of them, with just the slightest prodding, were like, yeah, we shouldn't give health care to people that haven't had the vaccine. Mm-hmm. Just the slightest prodding, and they were willing to say that. But I'll give you a short story about socialism. I had these friends I was partying with. We were shitheads. I'm not going to pretend we weren't. And we each had our drug of choice. Like I said, I was more of an alcohol person, but some of my friends were into way heavier shit than that. And one of those particular ones, one night, was under the influence of some of that shit and got in a bad wreck and got life flighted and, screwed him up for a long, long time. And fast forward to around 2008, and Obama wins, and we're going to have Obamacare. And this friend's explaining to me, he goes, this is going to be great. So, socialism's the shit. This is going to be great. Free healthcare. That's great. I can't afford healthcare. I got these bills. It's going to be great. And I was like, let me explain something to you. Do you know how this is going to work? I was like, when we massively inflate our budget, people like Bernie Sanders aren't going to pay that debt. It's going to be you. It's going to be the young people. You're the people that are selling your future. The old people don't give a shit. right? Like, imagine it like this. Like, your parents mortgage their home, when they're 70, and they go out partying every day, and then they die at 75. You're going to be the one that now your inheritance is screwed, right? You're the one who pays it back, basically. Not the best example, but you know what I'm saying. So anyways, I was like, here's what's going to happen. I was like, right now we have a bunch of people that are paying for health insurance and are using it, right? And we have a bunch of people that are using health care, but they're not paying for it. And so the people that are paying are pissed. They're like, our healthcare costs are really high because there's a bunch of people that are going to the emergency room and they're going to the hospital and they're not paying for it. And so how are they going to lower the money? Well, you know what their plan is? To add a third group of people that don't use health services, but now will have to pay for it. That's the plan. That's why the mandate was so important. Everybody has to get insurance because in order to drive the cost down, as they were saying, you needed a bunch of people that were paying for health insurance that weren't using it.
Right.
Now, my friend, who do you think on average those people are going to be? This is what I said to my friend. He's like, I don't know. I was like, young people. That's who's going to pay because you don't go to the hospital often. You might go once a year. The person that's 70 that's going to the hospital every other week that's paying for insurance, they're like, thank God. Now these 20-year-olds will have to pay half my cost. Right. So their costs go down. Your costs go up. Anyways, that person had assured me how stupid I was. 2 years later, I ran into them, and they were like, I don't even have health insurance, and now I got to pay this damn tax. I was like, oh, how'd that work out for you, buddy? Yeah. Nothing's free. And it's hard to tell young people that. It's like, you're going to be the ones that pay for it. It's going to be the young that pay for it. And you're right. Like, when you're young, you're arrogant and you think you know more. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos. People that fled Cuba or people that fled like the old Soviet Union and some 16-year-old punk telling them, you're wrong. Communism's great. It's like, I lived through it, buddy. Don't tell me how great it is. But these arrogant kids think they know better.
Yeah. And in the show that I do on Twitch on Mondays and on Odyssey with this person, Becca Fairley, we focus on socialism. It's because she was raised after the wall fell in Berlin, right? Right. And I grew up before that. And the way that the younger people were taught about socialism is completely different than what I was taught, right? I was taught it was bad and fucking people, it was a murderous, a murderous solution, to a problem that, anyway, that was unnecessary, but that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, no, you're, and it's a very nuanced conversation, right? Because the reality is, like, anytime you want to identify a problem, so let's say you say there are a lot of problems in the United States, you have to correctly identify the problem before you could come up with the correct solution. So this is where Black Lives Matter goes off the rails, right? Are there problems in inner city black communities? Sure. I mean, do you want to live in inner city Chicago? I don't. Like, it's a hellhole. The murders that occur there. So if you live there, let's not kid ourselves. You don't think moms in inner city Chicago are concerned about their kids being killed? Of course they are. Absolutely. So they have the right to be pissed. But what's the problem, right? All cops are racist. All cops are bastards. That's the problem. No, that's not the problem. And if that's where you start, the solution you come up with is only going to make the problem worse, which is exactly what we're seeing. Okay, defund the police. Now murders rise, right? It's amazing. That didn't work, did it? Right. It's the same with socialism. It's like, there's problems in this country. Sure, that's true. It's all capitalism's fault. Well, do we have a capitalist system? Arguably. We actually have a mixed economy.
Yes.
We have capitalist policies and we have socialist policies, right? And worse than that, we have sort of crony capitalism, right? And crony socialism. We have both of those going on at the same time. I'm not a complete anarchist. I'm not a complete, where I believe no government or there shouldn't be any government programs. Like, you could make an argument the act of having a military and having taxes to pay for that is a social program. It's a form of socialism, the most limited possible. But every step further than that's another social program. Roads, well, it's a social program. Education, well, it's a social program. Welfare, Social Security, yeah, those are sort of socialist type policies. So most of us fall somewhere. Very few people say no social policies. And if you're only some really sane people say no private property. So we're on that line somewhere. And what happens is these people that scream, we want socialism, like, they're incorrectly saying that the problem is capitalism. That's not the problem. Most of the problems they identify, if you go back and read your Milton Friedman, it's because the government got involved. Why is your tuition so high? Well, because back in the 70s, the government decided to get involved by guaranteeing student loans. So schools said, oh boy, great. Then we're going to raise the cost of tuition through the roof because now it's government guaranteed money. So the price shot through the roof. Now students are pissed. Why do I have to pay so much for college education? Well, because the government got involved. That's why. And so what's their solution? Let's get the government involved more. Or the best argument against socialism we could come up with, one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history has occurred in the past year because of the government lockdowns, which was basically government ran control of our economy, followed by the government bailouts and stimulus. Jeff Bezos got rich, Walmart got rich, average person can't afford to pay their mortgage now.
No shit.
So you took money from the working class and small businesses and you gave it to the large corporations. That's socialism. That's the policies. And so do they say, oh shit, that was a disaster? Nope. What do they say? We need more of that. We need another stimulus. Let's do it again. More lockdowns, more stimulus. And that's the problem. These people, and it's a problem all over the spectrum, let's be honest, but people are unwilling. I think it was Mark Twain said once, it's easier to scam someone than to convince them that they've been scammed, right? So part of me says, maybe you feel the same way. Did you think this when people were like, New York was like, we should get rid of the police or defund the police? Part of me was like, good, do it. Let's see what happens. And because after 3 years, you'll be begging. But then you know what you realize? They wouldn't. They would say, well, the problem is we didn't go far enough. If we gave Bernie Sanders the key to the country and the squad, and we said, you guys are dictators for 20 years, the shithole that this country would be 20 years from now would be unbelievable. And after that 20 years, when we're like, okay, what do we do now? Do you think they'd say, wow, our policies are a disaster? They'd be like, damn those Trump supporters. It's their fault. If only that's what they would. And you know that. You know that there's truth in that. They're not going to admit that their policies were a disaster. They're going to say, no, we need to double down. How many experiments with communism do we need to have? How many millions of bodies need to pile up before we say, you know what, maybe that's a bad idea? But ask young people, that's what they want.
It's crazy.
I'm sorry, I ramble a lot, I know.
No, it's good. No, it was really good. It was something I was thinking of, and it totally left my brain. I fucking hate when that happens. But it's really cool how you can just stay so focused on stuff.
Don't tell my wife that. She would disagree. I'm supposed to be focused on cleaning the gutters for the past 3 months.
Oh, boy.
Haven't got around to that. So.
No doubt. I had a Kevin fucking Logan. All right, so here, you need to tell him something. Okay, he said that Birmingham, England is more racially diverse than Birmingham, Alabama, and that's total horse shit. All right, and you can tell him, yeah, it's. I live just south of Birmingham. All right, so it's I'm a Bama guy, Roll Tide, and all that shit.
Oh, well, that's a good team to be a fan of.
Well, hey, look, man, I went through the Francione and fucking Mike Shula.
Yeah.
But he said,
man, I'm a Pitt fan. I still got to rely on Dorsett, which was before I was old enough to watch football. So that's how long it's been for me,
dude. But yeah, he said that Birmingham, England had. Yeah, so here's the deal. Here's the numbers. Birmingham, England is 79.1% white. Birmingham, Alabama is 64.3% black. Tell me about racial diversity, right?
Right.
And
by the way, what do they mean by that? What do they mean by diversity?
Exactly.
If Birmingham, Alabama was 99% black, would they say that's diverse? Probably, but it's not. 99%. They mean not white. That's what they mean by diverse.
Well, and what you're touching on, all right. So with the zeitgeist, there's all these rural and in suburban black families that have the same fucking values as you and me, right? And they're starting, and what I love seeing is people waking up, and it's like I have this guy that I had hired to do some. I'm like you, man. I can't do jack shit around the house anymore. And so I hired this dude, and we ended up talking for 30 minutes about Alex Jones and stuff, and I would have never have pegged this guy. Talking about, stuff about, the current state of the situation when it comes to certain strains of the coronavirus.
Right. Yep. It is. It's look. Here's the thing, right? Like Kevin Logan, like what a like. The only reason that there wasn't more of a conversation, at least in my community, about Kevin Logan was because Progressive Brat was just so dumb shit. But Kevin Logan wasn't far behind her, right?
Oh,
and like
shit.
You know, and so like what you bring up there, like this happens a lot, right? Where I'll be debating someone and they'll say something like that. Well, do you know the diversity of the population of Birmingham, England? No. And so they'll say something and it's like, you know, I could be like, okay, is that true? Let me look, right? And then do my best in the middle of this debate to research it. But oftentimes you're just like, when people do that shit, oftentimes it's like, does this even matter? Does it matter? What the fuck? What point are you trying to prove here, right? Are you trying to get in some pissing match that the UK is somehow better than the United States when it comes to diversity and shit like that? Like, is that what it's going to be? Do we need to get into a historical pissing match? Would you like to go to India and ask them what they think about the UK, right? And the colonization that occurred there? So don't tell me, you know, like it's just people like that. Like it's just, they have such a simplistic worldview where it's just, I call it cultural Marxism. They just look at what they consider oppressors, and then the other group is the oppressed. And you could break us into infinite groups that way. Right. So you could do it based on class, you could do it based on race, you could do it based on gender, you could do it based on sexual orientation, religion, ability, etc., ad infinitum. And there's an infinite number of ways that you could categorize people and say one of them's oppressors and one of them's oppressed. And so Kevin Logan will be in that group, and he'll say all of the oppressors are victims, and victimhood's the best thing. That's the best currency. And so the oppressors are all shitheads. And so it's easy to look at the United States and say, look at all the bad shit they've done. Look at all the bad shit that occurs in the United States. Sure, you could do that. And sometimes it's very true what they're saying. But compared to what? You know, like you hear this about capitalism. You know, look at all the bad shit that's happened under capitalism. Yeah, that's true. Capitalism's not a perfect system. And you're right. We should always try to improve things. But name a better system. Oh, exactly. You can't? Right? Like, and that's the problem. Like, people don't look at things in terms of, there is no utopia. And the extreme left, they're always comparing things to utopia. So when they embrace socialism or communism, they're looking at it from what they envision the end goal will be. Oh, well, we'll all have equal wealth, and no one will be homeless, and no one will be sick, and everyone will live to be 120 years old, and free love, and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that will never get there. There will always be racism. There will always be hatred. There will always be poor people. There will always be starvation. There will always be disease. There will always be conflict. The best we can do is manage it to the best of our ability. So, you know, I remember talking, I don't think it was Kevin, but I was talking to a socialist in one of these streams, and I said, listen, we have to keep things in perspective. If you're alive today, with all the problems that I can admit that there is in the United States, but if you're alive right now today, you're one of the luckiest people that have ever lived. If you're alive living in the United States. Like, it is incredible. You have no idea what human history was, the suffering that it was. And this person, and I was like, things could get way worse. And this person with the straight face looked at me and said, no, this is hell on earth.
Well,
now, how do you talk to someone like that?
I'll give you a fucking example, man. And this is because of capitalism. All right, I've got a pair of titanium hips. I've got a heart valve that's mechanical. And part of my aorta is Dacron polyester. Right? And I mean, I would literally be dead if I grew up in any other era. So that's right. You're absolutely right.
Take a simple surgery like herniated disc, right? 40 years ago, a surgery for that, I don't know this particularly, but I'm just saying in general, you'd have had a scar, 12 inches on your back. You'd have been out of commission the rest of your life in many ways. Now they could do little pin-size incisions and go in and work on your spine and stuff. I mean, the simplest surgeries like that, I find it incredible. Like, if you talk to older nurses and stuff, they're like, wow, they could tell you stories like, you wouldn't believe how more advanced this stuff. And you look at people like this and you're like, you want to know what hell on earth is? Like, do you know what the Holodomor is? Like, so in Soviet Union, for the audience that might not know this, in the Soviet Union, in Ukraine, right? So there were Bolsheviks, right? Like basically Marxists. And they came through all these little towns in the Ukraine. And there was a class of people that owned the farms. They were called the kulaks. And the Bolsheviks would come in and they would go to the rabble-rousers in the town and they would be like, hey, how come those people own the farms? Why isn't it you? Why do they have more than you? And these farmers weren't like Bill Gates. These were people that
were feeding their families with these farms.
Right.
I mean, basically.
And the town.
Right.
Right. So they might have 3 or 4 times more wealth than the average person in the town. But it's not like today where, the CEO's making 5,000 times the guy working on the factory floor. We're not talking that. Right. It's like this guy could afford to eat 3 meals a day instead of 2. Like, that's basically it, So they would basically rabble-rouse these people, and they would kick the kulaks out. And a lot of them they killed. A lot of them they sent off to Siberia. What happened was, it turns out farming's not easy. And when you kicked out all the people that knew how to farm, people were starving by the millions. And it got so bad that you could look this up. You could find pictures of what's the word I want to use? Like posters that they would put out, information posters that they would put up that would say things like this. Remember, no matter how hungry you are, don't eat your children. Now that's hell on earth, where you're suffering so bad you're considering murdering and eating your child. That's a hell that none of us ever want to fucking deal with. Right? But I'm supposed to believe some socialist that's advocating for that system that's like, no, today's worse. Today's worse. Really? What's so bad? You're in front of a computer right now on Twitch talking to me. Looks like you're eating well. Looks like there's a roof over your head. Explain to me how it's worse now than the people that had to question whether or not they should starve to death or they should eat their children. And they have no they have no comparison, right? If you want to just focus on the negatives, there's a lot of fucking life's hard. There's a lot of negatives. Life's not fair. You could focus on just the negatives, but you have to keep it in proportion. There was a study, I saw this, and then I'll shut up. They asked people in 2000, I think it was. They polled people, and this was, I can't remember the pollster, Gallup, I think. And they asked people, how many unarmed blacks in the year 2000 were shot and killed by police? And over 60% of Democrats said over 1,000. You know what the number was? 15.
Yeah.
Now, that's a small comfort if one of those 15 was your dad. Now, but first off, just because you're unarmed doesn't mean the shooting was unjustified. But let's assume that all 15 were unjustified. By the way, the number's 15 to 25, depending on the source you use. But if it's your dad that was unjustly killed, of course you're furious. That's of little comfort to you. But you have to keep shit in perspective. We have a country of, close to 350 million people. There are close to 1 million law enforcement officers. They're engaging with dozens of people a day. There's going to be bad interactions. And if we burn down the system because a handful of those, what's that future going to look like? But they never look at it like that. They just look at it, well, this is bad, isn't it? Of course it's bad. So we should strive to get better. But you don't burn down the system. And that's what they want because they don't understand. And the people that are, the older people that do understand, they know they don't really give a shit about socialism. They care about power. Right? So Nancy Pelosi doesn't care about communism or socialism. The only parts of that she likes, more power for me. Great. You think that Nancy Pelosi, if you give her the power, she's going to be like, and now we're going to take Bill Gates' money. Not a chance in hell. She'll help her corporate donors. But they like that mantra of saying, oh, it's more power for us. For socialism, we'll help the workers. Yeah, right.
Indeed. All right, so let's kind of shift gears here. All right, I do this with everybody that I interview. It's like this has been such a really electric interview, man. I really appreciate you doing this thing. All right. So I don't know if you remember a TV series called Inside the Actors Studio.
I do. With James Lipton.
Yeah, James Lipton. Well, he passed away the January before the lockdown started. Right. He didn't have the coof. He didn't die from that. But I started incorporating his 10 questions that he asked everyone, right? And he had taken those from a guy named Pivo, who took them for Baudelaire, I think. So this is an interesting set of questions. So it's kind of a not rapid fire, but it's more like you just say what comes in your head, man.
Sure.
All right. What is your favorite word?
Let's see. How about disaster? I said it too much the other night in the debate.
What's your least favorite word?
Problematic.
Well, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, no shit. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Advocating for the people that I think are the hardest working people in the country that get no credit.
No shit. What turns you off?
arrogance, like self-glorification.
What's your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck.
What noise or sound do you love?
Listen to my baby laugh.
What sound or noise do you hate?
I knew that was the next question. I hesitate to say this. The sound of two forks clanking together.
Oh, dude, yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Radio host.
Okay. And what profession would you not like to do?
I would say engineer, because I'd be terrible at it and I'd probably hurt people.
So if finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gate?
Did okay.
Right on.
Yep.
All right, so chat, we're going to give it about 5 minutes, so throw some questions in if you can, and then we'll wrap up. So what made you, while we're waiting on some questions to come in, if they do, what made you want to start doing this thing on YouTube? What brought you to YouTube?
Even before I ran for Congress,
or Twitch or any of this stuff.
I started on YouTube. Even before I ran for Congress, basically I was always getting drunk and rambling about politics to people, and they were like, well, either they didn't want to hear it or they're like, why don't you do something more about it? So I was like, okay, I'll talk to people online and maybe I'll have more of a voice. So that's literally how I got my start. And then first it was just recorded videos, and then I transitioned into live streams, and then to Twitch.
Right. And I got turned on to you by Becca Fairley, who got turned on to you by Drone Tech.
Yeah, my first live stream on YouTube, I had one viewer. It was Drone Tech, and I couldn't figure out how to get anything working. So I'd never met him. I was on a website called Above Top Secret, which he was on as well. And so he knew me from there, but I'd never talked to him, and he had a different name on there. And he talked me through how to use OBS and all this stuff. So Drone Tech's fantastic. He's one of my favorite people. His channel, his production values are insane. The way he edits, his thumbnail, all of that stuff, he is incredible at.
Yes, he is a level dude, man. That's for sure.
Very cool.
I need to read a couple of chats. Super chat. Mr. Scott J87 says, "Holy shnikes, it's Rob freaking Noerr." Oh, hi, Neil. And Roots tips $1 and says, "My name is Yeti and I like penis. Delish." And also, "Hello, my name is Jogging and I can taste penis with my asshole. Delectable." Okay. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get monetized now. Thanks.
Well, there it is.
Fritz. Yeah, that's right. So monetize my fucking stream elements, okay? So
everything gets demonetized on YouTube for me. So
I'll do this really weird. I've been like doing. Anyway, I'll talk to you maybe after we're finished with this. But I've been experimenting with some stuff, like taking things to other channels and other platforms. So this is we got some questions. All right, from Roots. It's like, what do you think of Barbara for you to see?
What do I think about what?
Barbara for you to see is this girl named Barbara Horvat that has a YouTube channel. She's a Slovenian girl, about 20, 22 years old, and she's funny, you know. But
I don't know. Never. I thought he said, "What do you think about a barber for you to see?" I was like, "Is that a shitty beard joke?" But no, I don't know her.
All right. So Becca Fairley wants to know, other than Pennsylvania, where would you choose to live?
Bradenton, Florida, the home of the Pirates spring training. Looks like an awesome place. I'd love to live there someday. Nice. It's like an elderly community, so I'd fit right in.
Would you prefer a cabin or a beach house?
Cabin. I don't like sand. Love the woods.
Have you ever had to find out an ATV floats the hard way?
Not myself, but I've seen it. I have seen it. Yeah.
No doubt. Let's see. Will you be giving Hank a sibling in the future?
Tough question. So part of me says you always want more than one, but I did get started late. I was 36 when we found out we were pregnant. This is the answer I always give to that. Pregnancy was easy for me. I'd do it again. I don't care. I'm not the one who had to deal with it, so you'd have to ask my wife.
That's right. Yeah.
We probably won't. It probably won't happen. Here's a weird thing. Like, everybody thinks their kid's awesome, but my kid's really awesome, and I mean that objectively. Like, he sleeps almost all night, rarely ever cries, hasn't had any health problems. So I feel like if we do it again, we got nowhere to go but down. Like, if you get a colicky baby after that, you're gonna be like, ah, shit, we should have stopped at 1.
This is one that's gonna end up in prison.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so talking about YouTube, all right, so or even in the community, why don't you rate some of the people, like your favorites and your least favorites? You know, kind of give me a black and white.
Yeah, so if anyone has specific, I'll do this, I don't mind. If anyone has a specific person they have a question about what I feel, that's fine. If I had to list my favorites, so there's 2 types of people. There are people that are conservative and liberal. I'll break them into that groups. Some of my favorite conservative people, there's different groups. So I'm on Twitch a lot, so I'm dealing with people there. The original people that I was hanging out with that I still really like, Drone Tech, fantastic. There was a guy named SJG Perspective. He doesn't stream so much anymore. Really liked him. Doug Decode was someone that I interacted with, was all right. 2 of my absolute favorites up there with Drone Tech are Sarah Courier and Let's Be Frank. Absolutely love those channels. So those are people that I've worked with. Yeah, there's a lot of streamers, Pete the Patriot, fantastic guy. Aircraft Sparky, good guy. There's a lot of streamers that I like Actual Justice Warrior. I've never had a chance to interact with, but I like their work. On Twitch, Lecture Fans, Critically Thinking Veteran are 2 friends that I've interacted with. Connor Points and Tiberius D, they're more moderate right-wingers. I have some pretty heavy disagreements with them, but still enjoy with them. On the left, people that I enjoy interacting with or at least think they're competent, I'd put Destiny near the top of that list. There's a woman named Empress that I interacted with that I thought was really good. A gentleman by the name of Christian Watkins, who I don't think has a big channel at all. Very smart dude. He debated he's younger than me. He debated in college. He challenges me. I really like talking to him. Least favorite people. I hate this chick named Demon Mama. She sucks. I hate this chick named No Comment Chick. She sucks. Fanatic sucks. Joe Lewis sucks. They're just race grifters. Vosh sucks, but not as bad. He's articulate and a little more intelligent than that crew, but I think oftentimes his positions are terrible and he has bad faith tactics. But yeah, that's does anyone have any specific that you want me to do? I'm sure I'm missing people, but that's my general list.
All right, so Neil wants to know, what do you think of bread tubers, really?
I mean, teach their own. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Listen, I'm the type of dude, even if I hate your position, like, for example, I just said Demon Mama and No Comment Chick. I don't wish them any ill will. If people want to donate money to them, so be it. I think the left-wing bread tubers, it's hilarious to me, right? Like Hassan, these people are making millions of dollars. Think about this. You're a socialist. Yeah. You're a 19-year-old kid. You're a socialist, and you're subscribing to their channel, giving them $20-$30 a month to some millionaire. If you're really a socialist and you really care about that shit, I'm sure there's somewhere in your town where you could go and find people that need money. Give them the money, right? Give it to the homeless guy. You're giving it to this wealthy guy and then claiming to be a socialist, and then they're buying $1 million houses. But I don't begrudge them. Hey, man, if people are willing to give you their money, I'm all for it. I don't care. So, it's laughable. They're hypocrites, the socialist bread tubers. But I don't begrudge them, And hey, if they're making a mint, so be it.
Will you be rapping again soon?
For enough subs, I guess I would do that. It's hard. Here's the thing, right? Like, I've never tried to freestyle rap. I did a panel with Chandler Crump, who's one of the people that's was on that song "Let's Go Brandon." So he's a legitimate rapper, right? And he wants me to do a freestyle rap off with him. I've never done freestyle rap. What I can do is karaoke rap, but I have to memorize the song. Here's the problem. If I'm rapping Dr. Dre and I drop an N-word, I'm basically off every platform that I'm on. Absolutely. So I have to rap 1,000,000 miles an hour and also change the words of the song at certain points to make sure that I don't say anything. But I'm sure I'll rap again.
What's your favorite caliber?
Good question. I always hunted with the 270.
Right.
But I'm terrible at it, and I haven't hunted for years, to be fair. But that's what I always hunted with.
All right. So you kind of said who do you enjoy debating the most back once in a while?
I hate to say it because he's probably destiny. Because for various reasons. One, he's intelligent. Second, we're going to have serious disagreements. Third, there's a huge audience. So yeah. And most of the time it's civil. You know?
Right. It's like a heavyweight match, man. I would be surprised if he didn't say that, to be honest.
Yeah, so like I debated this guy the other day. It wasn't really a debate. It was supposed to be a conversation. His name's Fanatic. He's a grifter, right? He's blacks are always victims. And what I can't stand I don't even mind debating someone that doesn't really know what they're talking about. What I hate is sort of bad faith tactics. So I get mired in this. I'm not perfect. I get mired in, but people want to focus on studies and statistics. But oftentimes in the debate, what you're doing is setting out general principles. So this person comes at me and he's making all these demands for these ridiculous hypotheticals. So I go through his ridiculous hypothetical and then I get to ask him a question and I'm like, would you be for basically prioritizing all black people because some of them are victims? And so should schools prioritize all black people? And he was like, no, because they should only prioritize the ones that were actual victims. And I was like, okay, well, that's what affirmative action is. And then once I proved it to him, he goes back and changes his initial answer. And that's the type of shit I'm like, so I just spent 40 minutes setting this up just for you to say, no, I never said that. I never said that. That's
Alinsky shit,
that's,
man.
Right. And I hate that shit.
God, I hate that shit.
Or Demon Mama, I debate her and she's out of nowhere starts getting on her soapbox screaming how I want to hook electrodes up to gay dudes' testicles and convert them to being straight. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Where did I ever remotely say this? But that's the type of shit. Those debates are absolutely worthless. The only value I get out of those debates is making fun of those people. That's it. And so I'd sooner not even engage. It's a waste of my time. But if I find myself in that situation, then I joke around and make fun of the people because that's the only value possible after that. But yeah, actual smart people on the left or the right. This debate with JF Garippi. Listen, I don't agree with him. I don't like those positions. But it was civil. He was intelligent. And we had a meaningful conversation. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing. He's articulate and he's very.
Oh, he definitely is. He's
very,
smart.
Very metered in his delivery. And he knows his shit. That's for sure.
He does. I'm not going to touch him on genetics. I'll tell you that.
Have you ever had to wrangle a horse on the side of the road and have it stomp your truck to absolute shit?
I've never owned a truck myself, though almost all my friends did and family. No, I've never wrangled a horse. What I have done is I've ridden horses. I had to help a woman who was bucked off a horse and was unconscious and get the ambulance there once. But nope, never wrangled a horse.
All right, yeah, it looks like my chat kind of has been smoking the devil's lettuce over here. So
yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Do you wear a gum band? What the fuck is that? I don't know.
Gum band, like braces or something?
Maybe that's like a British term for rubber band. I don't know.
No, I don't wear. Nope. I guess no. Where would one wear that? Like on the wrist?
I don't know, man. All right, why does my ex-sister-in-law call me a jack-off? I don't know.
It could be because you're a jack-off. I don't know.
See, I'm telling you, they broke into some medicine cabinet somewhere. Why does baby mama keep spending my money all at the bars?
Because spending money at the bar is fun. That's probably why.
All right. The next time I'm in around Pittsburgh, where should I try to eat? Oh, that's a good question.
So the big place that everyone talks about is Permane Brothers. I think it sucks. I'm not a big fan of Permane Brothers. So there's this pierogi place. I forget the name of it, but it's fantastic. The Hofbrauhaus in Pittsburgh, it's German food. I really like it. They got the hot chicks in Lederhosen that serve you like the big 60-ounce beers and mugs, and the guy playing the accordion. I dig that shit. I'm a gimmick guy. So
with those
my vote's for the Hofbrauhaus.
Yeah, Hofbrau. That sounds good, man. Actually, it sounds fun. Let's see. Do you think I should start drinking the moment I wake up? Roots wants to know.
Honest advice, no, and here's why. Right, I'm not going to you make the decisions you want. I'm not here to help you with that. But one thing I do say is, do you notice the more you start drinking, you constantly change the for me, this worked out anyways. I'd constantly change the difference of what alcoholic means. So like when I was only drinking once in a while, I'd be like, I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholic is someone who drinks like more than like 12 beers in a setting. Then once I got to that point, it's like, I'm not an alcoholic. An alcoholic is someone who drinks more than 5 days a week. And then once I got there, ultimately by the end of it, I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. An alcoholic is someone who drinks by themselves. As long as I'm around other people drinking 7 days a week, perfectly fine. It's only if you wake up and you're drinking by yourself that you're an alcoholic. So drinking to me was only fun when it was social. So no, I would not recommend drinking by yourself when you wake up.
Indeed. When you change diaper, do you wrap it in a plastic bag or do you just toss it?
No plastic bag, of course. I'm kidding, no way. You do the fold, right? You fold it up. We got this thing called a diaper genie that you put it in this. It's like a big plastic bag. It's like a big tube. And then when it fills up, you tie it off. It looks like a big shit snake. You have to throw away. But most of the time, we don't even use that now. You just fold it up in on itself, throw it in the garbage.
Nice. All right, so this is a question I should have asked right at the very beginning, but I didn't. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
You will never know. I'm not going to tell you. Do you know why someone told you to ask that?
No, that's my show's called Ice Cream Interview. So that's
well, holy shit, that is true. Well, there's a story behind this, believe it or not.
All right.
I did probably an hour. You remember when Joe Biden, they asked him about what flavor of ice cream is that? And he said, chocolate chip. And that guy goes, oh, they're all impressed. I did about an hour of watching that clip over and over again and just talked about how we have the best press in the world, our hard-hitting press asking the important question, what flavor of ice cream do you like? And so people started asking me, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And I said, I'll never tell you fuckers. Only the intrepid reporters at the New York Times or the Washington Post will be able to get that answer out of me once I win public office. So you'll have to vote for me. And then when I win public office, convince the New York Times to ask me my favorite flavor of ice cream like they do Joe Biden. So that's my answer.
I understand. I totally get it, man.
Chocolate chip. I mean, man, watch that clip again. Do yourself a favor. That guy in the background, what flavor of ice cream is that? And there's so many funny things. You could watch it in slow motion. First off, Joe Biden doesn't even know what flavor of ice cream he's eating. He has to pause and look at it, right? Which is hilarious in its own right. And then he says chocolate chip. So he doesn't even say chocolate chip. He says chocolate chip. And when he says it, he gets this big smile. Like, finally, they asked a question that I knew the answer to. Like, Joe Biden's so impressed that he's like, I knew the answer to that one, right? But then the best is when he says it, the press poll's like, oh, they're so impressed. And then you start to hear one of the guys in the press poll, he actually starts to say, my favorite is chocolate. And then they cut him off and they ask another question. But it's 10 seconds of everything wrong with the leadership in this country summed up in one little ball. It is
the press.
Absolutely one of the funniest videos. Oh, yeah, the press, the president, the whole shit, the whole shebang's there. And it's so funny. I legitimately have laughed at that video for probably an hour, in totality. So,
man, it's mimetic,
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
Right. So, all right, talk about, she made an announcement. You want to talk about that and what you got coming up in the future, what your content's going to look like and where you're going to be and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I got some things in the works here. First off, on I guess the bigger announcements I have. So I had a radio show. It was out of Williamsport. We did it online, but it broadcast on the radio in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, home of the Little League World Series, with my friend Tard Barley and Carlos Saldivia. That might be starting up within the next 6 months again, so that'll be cool. As far as little things I'm doing, I think next week I'm doing a chess stream where we'll be giving out a chess book to one lucky contestant that my opponent has written. Or I guess my guest. It'll be my opponent. He'll crush me. He's actually an actual chess player, and I'm just some jagoff. It's someone that is a Pittsburgh thing, jagoff. But I have next Wednesday, I believe, I'm doing a panel. I don't know what it entails. It's going to be it's called Political Shit Show. I think I'm the host / debater. I have a debate. People are trying to line up with Destiny again, which Destiny's really making a mistake this time because he wants to debate the Hunter Biden Ukraine thing. I would do that debate right now this minute. I'm intimately aware of everything about that situation. So we'll be doing that. Trying to think if I have other things coming up. I have a conversation 2 weeks from now with someone called Econoboy on economics. I have no idea what specifically he wants to talk about. There's a debate I have coming up on the Crucible with someone named Polly something, who's a trans communist I don't know what she wants to debate me on. So
Most of them
basically
are.
I stream. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, it's a full plate.
Sorry.
Like it's almost every day that I got something lined up. I stream primarily to Twitch now for two reasons. One, if you're an affiliate on Twitch, they don't like you streaming elsewhere live. Secondly, I might be able to overlook that, but YouTube keeps suspending me. And if I get one more strike on YouTube, I'm done forever. So currently I'm not streaming to YouTube until my 90 days is up, so that I don't lose my channel forever. So I stream almost every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And most of the time I'll be taking calls from people or debating people. So that's what I do usually.
Man. So all right, we're kind of at the end of the line here, question-wise, man. But, something tells me we can talk probably for another 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I definitely can. That's one. No one's ever accused me of being short with my words.
No,
so.
I love it see, man, that's what I love about doing this thing, man, is everybody's different. And I love it when the show kind of takes off on its own and kind of does its own thing, right? It's like playing jazz, you know? It's like the music's written there, but there's room for improvisation, right? Yep. And each interview with each person is completely different, man. And you know, and I want to keep doing this thing for as long as I can. I love it.
Well, yeah, and I've been putting your channel out on mine, so hopefully everyone listening goes and checks your channel out. And yeah, I had a blast. I would do it again. You know.
Well, it's we got a tradition before we get out of here. Is chill your channel, and we'll be out the door. It's in the description on YouTube, on DLive, and on Odyssey. All your links are in there. So,
yep. And I don't use DLive and Odyssey a lot right now. I will be in the future though, but primarily Twitch right now. Just twitch.tv/Rob Noerr, as you see it spelled there.
Indeed. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, man. Especially you, Rob, man. You know, it's like it always surprised me, you know, and I could talk about this all day long. There are certain people that laugh in my face, right? But this dude is fucking going toe to toe with people like Destiny and shit, and he said, "Sure, I'll do your show." You know,
yeah, I've no. Well, let me say real quick, like if. I think, and I hope you agree with me, regardless of how big you ever get, I want a community of conservative and like-minded people, cool people, to actually get involved in these platforms. So I don't, to me, I think that we owe it to ourselves to share our audience as much as possible. That's how I feel.
I agree. I totally agree, man. And I just wish I had the talent to be able to think as fast on my feet as you do, man. It's amazing just watching you do your thing. And if you're not, all right, so this is from my people. If you're not subscribed to this dude, you really need to do it. You're doing yourself a disservice. It's fun to watch people like Destiny get on, man. And you know, because there's like it's like he said, there's levels to this thing, man. And I think that he and Destiny are the apex, given, you know, their sides. So, but I'm not a big Destiny fag anyway. I'm sounding like one, but fuck it. So I don't know.
But you just recognize when someone's talented, even if you disagree. Yeah,
absolutely, exactly. That's what I was. Yeah, that's where I was going with that shit. So on that note, I don't have anything else to say, man. What about you?
Oh, I mean, I think we could wrap up if you want, but I mean, I could go all night. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the wife will yell at me at some point.
I feel you.
She'll yell at me at some point. But no, I just want to say thanks. I think you're a tremendous host, and like, listen, that you could say like, well, you don't have certain talents, but you have other talents, right?
Right.
Look, you are doing a similar platform in a very good way that someone like Joe Rogan did, and look where that took him. Right. You know, Joe Rogan's not someone that's out there because he's debating people. He's out there because he gets interesting people on and asks them interesting questions. So that's very important. And to everyone else out there, your skill set, you could still use your skill set to improve your community or to push conservative values or whatever you want. Your skill set might not be that you're good at talking or doing a channel or something like that, but maybe your skill set's you're a tremendous artist, or you're a musician, or you're a hell of a carpenter. Everything has value. All of those things have value. So, you know, you could use all of that to help improve our culture and push this country back to the direction it should be going.
Man, fantastic. And on that note, man, I am out of words. I'm out of words, people. And so on this note, I'm going to go ahead and we'll wrap up, and then I hang around for a couple of minutes, and then
Sure.
and then we'll be done. So on that note, people, see you tomorrow night. Cream Stream 200. It should be fucking crazy. So I'm just saying, JJ Stoner's said he's going to come. So, and that should be interesting.
Awesome.
Have him with the group. Yeah. It's a clip show. We look at news and stuff, and we kvetch about it. We do 2 minutes of hate out of 1984, the book and shit.
Yeah. You'll have to bring me on someday. I would do it with you.
Well, fuck, man. It's like once you do this show, you're automatically invited to the next episode. So if you want to pop out tomorrow night, please do. All right.
What time you streaming?
Midnight Eastern. All right, is when we start. Ooh. Yeah, I know. See,
we'll see. I might be doing a panel tomorrow. I'm not sure, but I'll see, man. I'll if I'm up, I'll see what's up. So
indeed. All right. So you're always welcome. And on that note, I'm out. All right. So everybody in the chat, I appreciate you for hanging around. Some new people, welcome to the channel, and thank you once again, Mr. Rob Noerr. You're awesome. And I'm out. So we're gonna kill the mic and say goodbye, buddy.
We'll see.